Three Grots in a Vox is intended for a mature audience. This means there will be crude language and discussions of adult themes, especially if we're talking about Tactical Marines or Gabriel Seth. Viewer discretion is not only advised but encouraged. All opinions are our own and often given for humorous purposes. Any advice is given largely for entertainment purposes and would probably be ignored. But if you do learn something useful, count it as a win.
Right. Are we going to do a cold opening again? Or have we just actually already started recording now, John?
That depends. Are we recording?
We are, yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
So we're already going then, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. So, hello everybody. Welcome to an actual episode of Three Grots in a Vox. Today we're talking about boarding actions.
With an intro that somebody appears to have put some thought into in advance. No?
No? God, fuck off.
Why is it an actual episode? Is that my episode last week not good enough? No?
Well, no, it wasn't supposed to be. It was supposed to alternate for our episodes, and for some reason you thought, no, I'm going to do an extra one in here.
Oh,
mess
right,
up the schedule, John.
Mess up the schedule. Okay, I'll get you. Cool.
Right,
so this is the actual episode. So last week's episode
was just impromptu, monstrous behemoth of an episode.
2.5 hour. Yeah.
Fucking ever.
Yeah. So important stuff today. Today I'm on Saison Datra. It's a beer. It's like a Belgian Saison style beer. It's quite strong. It's like 6%, which is quite a lot for a midweek drink. But it's got a bit of flavour to it, so I quite like it.
Let's get a little something going, shall we?
We can be jealous.
Well, you can have a beer, can't you?
I mean, I can have a beer. It doesn't mean I have to walk downstairs.
You're off meds now, aren't you?
Yeah, look, here's my broken arm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really sore to do that.
Right, so go for it.
Yeah, get in it. Get a beer.
Right, I'll keep my headphones on. You keep talking.
All right. We'll hear the clink clink.
So we're just going to randomly vamp until John gets
he's gone to the toilet, hasn't he? Yeah.
He's not gone to the toilet. He's gone to the toilet with his microphone on again because that was terrible.
And he's got a little green screen running half-mast behind him. What's that all about?
Well, I think he got excited about having a green screen, and then he realised the same thing that I realised when I had my green screen up. There's a pain in the arse.
Fair enough.
Mine just kept falling down all the time. And then when I moved out, I just couldn't even be asked to put it up anymore. It's still in a box somewhere.
Dude. Are you planning to get it sorted there? Just too much faff?
The problem is it's getting it hanging up behind you and then getting it into the right angle. And behind me is my painting desk.
Yeah.
So I'd have to put something between me and the painting desk or some bollocks. I can't be bothered.
So long short, too much faff. How much is one of them anyway? I've never really looked into them.
Mine was super cheap. It was about 30 quid or something.
Okay.
They're not a lot of money. You can spend a lot of money and you have big frames and stuff, or you can spend 30 quid and get shit.
I suppose they're fairly popular with streamers these days as well. So
yeah, they're really useful if you want to put just your talking head over a stream or a video game or something.
Yeah.
But
mine was very expensive. Mine's the Elgato one. If you do streaming stuff, Elgato is the shit. And look at this. Use my left arm. Ta-da.
Ooh. So why don't you use it?
Because it can't be fucked.
I'd have to.
It's because it can't be fucked.
I use it on my weekly videos every week. I mean, I'd have to zoom my camera in, and then I don't actually know how to do it in a Skype call.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, can't be fucked. That's what it is. That's why it's the same reason I don't use mine. His might be fancier than mine, but the reason he doesn't use it is he can't be fucked.
Okay,
all right.
I win for strange beers.
Odin's Beard Beer, awesome.
Oh, that looks nice.
Right.
From the Loch Lomond Brewery, yes. It's a great brewery if you're ever in Scotland.
It's not like Nessie's Tentacles beer or something, but...
No,
I thought you were going with something else when you started with the Nessies and the...
It's a grapefruit IPA.
Ooh, tasty.
Yeah.
Right.
Fair enough.
Are you back now? Can we actually get on with our episode?
Yeah, I haven't drunk beer since I drunk beer with you guys on the 31st. So.
Ooh, and you didn't get massively smashed then either, to be fair.
No, I was behaving myself, so...
Yeah. Right, let's crack on then. So we are talking about the Arts of Omen boarding actions, specifically boarding actions today rather than normal 40k. We've got some Terminators, sadly not Space Hulk. This is boarding action. Now, it does feel a little bit. Now, I've been reading through the book, and it does feel very Space Hulky, and it almost feels like someone's gone, we want to play Space Hulk, but we want it a bit more like 40k.
A bit more open with the races you can bring and the models you can bring and the variety and stuff.
But it still really does. I haven't had time to play more than a little bit of this because it's only been out for about 2 weeks at this point.
Right.
But the little bit I've played, it has really felt quite claustrophobic. Very, it hasn't got all the blips and that you had with Space Hulk, which was cool, but it still feels very.
Well, Space Hulk was a very narratively curated,
and I feel like you can do the same thing with it. Anyway, so not Space Hulk, but the premise: these are little 500-point games of 40k. Now, it is 40k. It is not a different game. Whilst things like Apocalypse and 8th edition were really a different game, this is not. There are a few minor changes, some of which I'm going to get into later, but really the core is just 40k. Yep. Few changes, a few limitations on what units you can bring, but that's about it. It's very confined. There's lots of corridors, close quarters fighting, a lot of breaching hatchways, that sort of thing. You've got some special terrain you've got to use. You can make your own.
So did you buy the special boarding actions terrain?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. I'm going to get a set next month, actually.
I was absolutely not going to, and then in doing some research for this video, I saw somebody else's video coverage of it just to figure out what the fuck was going on. And they did it with the little doors opening and closing it as well after it was built. It's like, right.
It's really nice.
It's
really nice. So yeah, then you've got special terrain that you've got to use. You've got actions that you use to get around in that terrain, like opening doors and things like that. Strats, warlord traits, relics, all gone. Thank fuck. Instead, you've got a couple of special boarding actions, strats and equivalent to warlord traits.
What are they? Strats,
we'll get into
traits,
those later. I'm not.
Relics all going. What about chapter command upgrades? Can I still make?
No, they're still in.
They're still in. Okay, cool.
They're still in. But if you've only got 500 points, and if you want to spend 40 points of that giving rerolls to a unit, and you can't do it through walls, then more for you.
And if the benefit of one of those is to get stratagems cheaper, then it's probably pointless.
I was thinking about Death Visions, but I'm a Blood Angels player.
Work.
Yeah.
I was thinking that a Death Vision in the close quarters could be pretty cool, but all right.
I'm not going to lie. There's a list. We'll talk about lists later on, but there's one bouncing around in the back of my head with
Terminators.
Basically Death Company intercessors.
I got a question. Given that they're 500 points, how long would you expect an average game to take once you're vaguely au fait with what you're doing?
About an hour.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Which is great. That's exactly what I want from a game.
Yeah. That's what's wound up selling me on it, and why I've ordered a copy of the book that I've just had a notification from Element Games is delayed, and we'll be here a little bit later.
Yeah, I did notice as of today, GW do not have this book in stock online.
Yeah, it was sold out as of last weekend. It went back on sale very briefly over the weekend and then went off again.
So it definitely seems quite popular, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I know in our group we're all pretty excited about it, and we like it. It's good.
I'm interested for it solely for the quick and convenient way to play,
and that's what we like.
Yeah, I'll get together with my local gaming group once every couple of weeks. We've got the local village hall for 4 hours. Setting up a full game of 2K, 40K, and hoping to get through that with setup and takedown is always a bit tight and a bit of a push.
Yeah.
So,
and that's what we found. We comfortably get a couple of games in on an evening.
Yeah,
and that's better. That's great because it means you can try stuff out, you can play about.
Yeah,
and that whole 500-point thing is really nice for trying out other armies.
Very true. Yeah.
Maybe you haven't got a lot of other stuff, but
like patrol boxes and stuff. Oh god, that one with Abaddon in and a bunch of Space Marines is very tempting.
It's not even legal though.
I don't give a shit. I've been eyeing up Abaddon as just a model. Just to have the model to collect and paint, and then everything else in the box would be a bonus towards actually starting a small chaos.
Really on the verge of buying Abaddon, but then I saw Horus Ascended.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair.
And I think I would rather paint Horus Ascended than Abaddon.
I appreciate your point of view. I think I'd rather get the Abaddon. And I want to get a little small glass marble and put it in his claw and paint little
flames on it, whatever.
continents and clouds all over it, like a
like
boat.
the
like that piece of artwork.
It was the Eye of Terror Codex.
Yeah, from the original 13th Black Crusade.
No, it wasn't the Eye of
source
Terror.
book. It was whatever the 13th Black Crusade source
book. They
gave
that codex away free with White Dwarf.
Yeah, it might have done. The one where they actually killed off Eldred Ulthran before they retconned that one.
It was a wicked one.
Anyway,
it was a very good
here. I do apologise.
Book. Right, so let's crack on. So let's start off with a little bit about the lore. I know we talked about it in the last episode, just a touch, but I think it's worth going over the kind of loose premise again.
Go for it. It's been a while since I watched that video, so given you're the only one of the three of us who's got the book in front of us.
Yeah. Before I get any further, this is the book. It's not the biggest book ever, but it's a decent sized book.
You can see all the boarding action rules are on like 3 pages, aren't you?
About 10 at the end.
Yeah, that sounds
this last little bit is the board. In fact, that's not that, and that includes all the missions. There's a double-page spread for each mission.
When GW previewed it, they previewed the contents page, so it's been public knowledge how many pages everything in there was for a while now.
It's a beautiful, beautiful lore book. It's really interesting continuation of the storyline. And
curious to see what they put in the second one with Vashtor, because they've got to introduce him with the lore, and they've got to put.
Well, they've put Vashtor's in this book.
What?
He's in this book, but it's what he's going to do next.
Yeah. He's like introduced vaguely.
Sense. Yeah. So if you read through this book, you've got this kind of basic premise of some shit's happened. A techie Magus chaos guy has nicked a magic book and fucked off with it and started pissing about with the magic book. And he's fucking about with it inside Abaddon's flagship.
It doesn't go horribly wrong in the slightest.
Which isn't going to go horribly wrong in the slightest.
Yeah.
So Abby's chilling out on his bridge. And down in the depths of the Vengeful Spirit, you've got some tech addict that's nicked a magic book.
And the Vengeful Spirit is one of the biggest, scariest, badass ships in 40k lore at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, so he's fucking about, and naturally he summons a demon. Now, we don't know about the bit before this, but what starts happening is suddenly the ship's going haywire, all the servitors are dying, you've got weird wiggly worms coming out of all the technical stuff, and just the ship's going bananas.
In other words, it's
Abaddon
Tuesday.
And his sorcerers are tracking it down, and they go down to the hole, they find this, what was the guy.
Oh, come on, you're on a chaos ship. You've got to expect this sort of bollocks to happen, don't you?
Yeah. Well, he's not happy about it. Anyway, so he's not happy about it. He goes down there and he bumps into Vashtor, basically, who's now cupped up. Now, Vashtor is a new demon. He's not new in the lore that's just been written, but he's new in that we haven't heard of him before. And they've just sort of written him in as though he was always there.
Behind the scenes.
He kind of represents the Dark Mechanicum. Now, he's got this plan if he wants to be a new kind of 5th Chaos God. And his area of expertise is the Mechanicum and his wiggly tech worms and all this sort of stuff. And he goes to Abaddon and he says, look, I can make you super powerful. All you've got to do is find these different key artifacts and I'll put them together in a magic super weapon and you'll become super wicked God. And Abby's like, well, no, that sounds a bit shifty. Don't believe what demons tell you.
Prove it, mate.
And he's like, no, I'll prove it. So he gives Abaddon some coordinates, and the coordinates are to an Imperial world. And Abby's like, oh, fuck it. I'll give it a nose. And he brings his fleet. He goes over to him. He's not doing anything better. He's like, yeah, I can rob this place. And he goes over there and he starts to dig his way in. But all of a sudden, he's getting there and he's finding that everybody's already being deaded. Gets to the heart of it and he finds Vashtor. And Vashtor has deaded his way to the middle of the Imperial base and he's captured the thingamabob. And he's like, look at this magical thingamabob. Look how much power it's got.
Should we call it the MacGuffin from this point on?
Yeah, because it's
magic box. Infinity Gauntlet.
Do you know what? It's even more ridiculous than that. Because the whole point of this is these key item, they look like anything. Right? They're all different. And he's going to put them all together and he's going to make the
9 pieces of 8.
Yeah.
And he
I
says
really
to
are.
Abaddon,
Like
look, if you
pieces
find
of
all these
whatever we had
magical
in our
bits
pockets at the time.
and you give me all the magical bits, I'll put them together into your magical super weapon of doom. And Abby's like, yeah, all right. At the same time, Vashtor makes the Arcs of Omen start popping up. So he's gathering up all of these Space Hulks, and him and the Dark Mechanicum are rebuilding them, fitting drives to them to create the Arcs of Omen. And the Arcs of Omen are Space Hulks, just with a little bit of a modicum of control over them. And Abaddon puts out the call and he says, look, anybody who wants one can have one. You got a warband? Yeah, great. You can have one of these Arcs of Omen. No strings attached, apart from this massive string, which is I'm also going to tell you a magical artifact you've got to go and get. And he said, but once you've got the magical artifact, you can do what you like with the big old ship. And all the warbands are like, yeah, all right, I'll have that. I'll take that deal. So he's equipped them all with their magical warships to go and find the magical artifacts, and they're all getting spit off into Imperial space. The ones that are in the Eye of Terror, well, that's not a problem. We'll grab those. But the ones that are in Imperial space are a little bit more complex.
Because the thing about Space Hulks, if you're not aware about it in the lore, dear viewers, is that they are enormous, fucking huge, smashed together wrecks of, like Shipwreck Cove in Pirates of the Caribbean, which is like a city made out of shipwrecks all jangled in together. It's exactly like that, floating through the warp, loads of spaceships all smashed and crashed into each other. It's not a functioning ship in any way, shape, or form. It's just floating through the warp and space and warp and space and warp and space, carrying orcs and stealers and monsters and whatever bollocks else they want to put in them. And what Vashtor has done is decided, I can put some special demon tech into this Space Hulk so we can actually vaguely control it-ish. That's what an Arc of Omen is.
So, all over the Imperium, these Space Hulks start popping up. And if a Space Hulk pops up in the Imperium, it's a big deal. The Mechanicus, yeah, no, it's Mechanicus.
Yeah,
all over excited about it. Sometimes Mechanicum.
Because it could be full of Archaeotech from fucking thousands of years
they're going to get
ago.
all excited about it. Other people are going to get excited about it. The Order Xenos are going to get excited about it because, it could be full of gene stealers or orcs or whatever. So they're all starting to get a bit excited. But it takes a little while for them to put two and two together and realise, hang on, there's a lot of these popping up. And to start mobilising to the fight back and to start taking some of these back.
Coordinated attack, yeah.
Can you Sorry, dumb question. You can't even really destroy Space Hulks with regular conventional weaponry. That's why they put boarding parties into them, because they're so big you would just be firing at them forever, right? Correct?
Yep, absolutely.
More or less, and bits of it are going to be in and out of the warp and all sorts of stuff.
You watch that film Armageddon where they can't detonate a nuke on the surface of the asteroid because it'd just explode a bit off the outside of it. You got to put one right in the middle to blow all the bits of it apart. That's exactly right. Yeah, same sort of thing.
Yeah, so they're starting to coordinate and they're starting to fight back. Now, at the same time, in the center of each one of these Arcs of Omen, because of plot, Vashtor's put what is basically a warp gate. And then he's put the central warp gate for Abaddon. And the idea is it means that Abaddon can basically pop up on any of these Arcs of Omen that he wants to. So if it starts getting a little bit hairy, he can be like, well, I'm here.
Or this guy decided to go and do his own thing and not what I told him to.
You were expecting whatever it was, but it is Cato. No,
no one expects the Abaddon Inquisition.
So Abaddon can pop up wherever he feels like because of reasons, and that kind of puts us where we are. We've got these popping up everywhere, trying to get the magical artifacts. You've got the Imperium realizing it's probably not a great thing having all these Space Hulks popping up everywhere and trying to fight back. And that's pretty much, apart from some little individual fluffy stories and that, up to date. So we're in a situation now where Abaddon is taking personal command of some of the missions that aren't going quite so well, trying to get the magical artifacts so Vashtor can build him his magical super weapon of doom that's not going to come to pass.
So far, we know there are going to be at least 4 books, possibly more. GW have been evasive on the subject if there's going to be more or not. We know that book 2 is Angron. We know that book 3 is Vashtor. And we know that book 4 has something to do with Xenos stuff.
So I thought the book 4 was Astartes.
No, book 4 had Ordo Xenos written on it in a sort of censored, restricted view.
I'm sure one of them they were saying was Astartes.
They may well have done, but that's all that has been given away on it. I mean, it's being expected that it'll be Farsight due to Farsight fairly clearly being one of the New Year's previews. And obviously they also previewed Azrael, so he's going to pop up somewhere at some
and I'm
point.
very happy about that Farsight, because that was a terrible model and I hated painting it. So he really needs a new model. In fact, just some plastic Tau characters. There aren't any really. You've got Darkstrider. So that's where we're at in the lore. That was my slightly truncated, possibly paraphrased version of the story.
All right.
I was going to say, so there's like 40 pages of the book. How many pages is in the book? Like 50, and you got 10 pages of gameplay.
It's not quite 10. I'm exaggerating a little bit. Arts of Omen Abaddon runs up to, including the showcase, runs up to page 50.
There's a lot of artwork.
Yeah, and then the rules runs from page 50 to 86 if you count all the mission pages, because they're like a double spread for every mission.
And there's what, 9 missions?
And I assume
that reading
some missions.
I was going to say, I assume that the terrain set that you buy that comes with the board lets you make all the missions that's in this book, right? You don't need anything else. You just need the terrain
you just
set.
need that, and it. We'll get to it in a little bit later. You get a map for your mission, and you plonk the parts down. It gives you a parts list of you need part A1, blah blah blah, and you put it in all the different places that it tells you to, and that builds the map for that mission. I've played through the first couple of them, and they've been pretty good.
Cool.
Now let's roll on then. So I thought we should talk about the rules.
Yeah,
really?
Why not? I'm not going to go into all of the rules because it's largely just 40k, but the most important couple of changes I think are worth talking about. And the biggest change is visibility.
Okay.
Because in 40k, we tend to abstract visibility quite a lot. So, for example, in 40k, if someone can see, then the unit can see. Well, in this, it doesn't work like that. If a guy can see round a corner, that guy can see round the corner. The rest of his unit can't. The same goes through hatchways. If you've got an opponent on the other side of a hatchway, then you can't see him. And you can't fight him. It doesn't matter if he's leaning against the wall and you're leaning against the other one. Unlike in 40k, where if you're both on two sides of the wall, you fight. It doesn't work like that. Okay, you must have actual line of sight to the model. Now, in the example on the left, which is talking about the visibility around walls, you've got the guy at the bottom there in model C. He's in cover because you can't see all of the model or the whole of the base. They've been very clear with this. It's the base of the model that matters.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So you can't do any of this bollocks like, well, my man's holding his sword out. No. It's the base of the model that you're measuring from and to when it comes to visibility.
Good.
Model D is not in cover at all because he's around the corner. Model C is in cover, and Model B is out of line of sight. You can't do anything to him because you can't see him. He's behind the wall. And that's quite important, is the tactical use of walls in this game.
If they're all in the same squad and you shoot that unit, can the enemy still allocate wounds to Model B?
I'll get to that in a second.
All
I
right.
was going to say, you're going to need to slow roll the shit out of this, aren't you? But I guess you'll get to it.
And you've only got a few models, so it's not really
if you've only got 500 points, that's less.
Yeah, and you can never have more than 5 models in a unit.
Okay. Even if you're like cultists, you're still limited to 5.
You get cut in half. It becomes 2 units of 5.
I see.
So say you've got a unit 10, there's a minimum size. You bring that, and when you start the game, you split it to 2 units of 5.
Okay, well, okay.
Same with like Imperial Guard.
If you've got a unit of plasma inceptors, you just have to leave them at home now because...
Well, you couldn't bring them anyway because you can't bring units to fly. So the other part of that is hatchways. Hatchways are closed by default, which means you can't see through them, you can't fight through them, you can't do anything until someone makes an action to open it up. Yes.
Death Company can't do actions.
I'll get to that later.
Okay.
Can I carry on now? Right. Now, so
Sorry, sir.
I've expanded the visibility a little bit because this is where it starts to get a little bit more complex. Because you don't want a big unit, because unlike 40k, you cannot see through your own models either.
Oh,
So
All right.
if you've got all your units packed together in a corridor, then only the guy at the front can shoot.
if they're like split with a tiny little gap between the bases, can you draw a line of sight down the tiny little gap between the bases?
Yeah. So
Okay.
as it says it, if they're all from the same unit, but what it means is because of the gap between the walls, it's hard to get that, and it means that you've got this kind of problem of, because if you think the guy's going to be around a corner on the target, so if you can see that sort of square on the picture on the left,
Yeah.
that guy's probably just around that corner. So even if there was a gap between Model B and Model C, Model D still wouldn't be able to shoot because he'd be luring a line straight through. Okay. So
All right.
you've got to be able to draw a line of sight without going over the base of another model. So in the other example, you've got 2 units there. Let's say Model A, the Space Marine, is shooting at... Let's start with the one on the left, because we started with that already. Model A is shooting at the unit on the left. Well, he can see all 3 of those models, so he can shoot all 3 of those models. And as the controlling player for those Necrons, you get to pick which model gets hit, the same as in 40k.
Hang on. What? Sorry.
So
the picture on the left.
Yeah, the Space Marine shooting at the Necrons.
Yeah.
Okay.
He
can
can't
shoot
see
any of those.
He can't
No,
see
he can
deep,
shoot
though,
any
can
of
he?
them. No, but he can see the unit.
Right,
And a bit like 40k, the controlling player allocates them.
You target the unit. Right, cool.
Yeah. However, in the second example, you've got 2 separate units there. He can see the front unit.
Yep.
And shoot at it, but he can't shoot at the back unit.
Okay, cool.
Because the other units are in the because you're still shooting at the unit, you're not shooting at a model.
When Model A is selected to shoot, because B and C are part of the same unit, Model D is considered visible for the purposes of allocating attacks.
Yeah.
Right. Okay,
but if it was going the other way round, Model D wouldn't be able to shoot because B and C are blocking the hole.
Gotcha.
And I think that's intentional to try and stop you mobbing loads and loads and loads of infantry down one corridor.
Yeah, which is
because
fair.
the guys at the back of the corridor can't shoot because the guys at the front of the corridor are in the way.
Good.
And that also, because remember the line of sight is the base, means that things on 40mm bases are a bit of a blessing and a curse.
I was going to say, what about 60mm Hellbrick I'm building? He's going to be useless.
If the base can't fit
through
the
the whole corridor.
If the base can't fit through the door in the terrain,
that's fine. That's fine. They're making a clear point of that. If you can bring the base, you can bring the model. Just I don't know, squeezes through it. It's like Centurions. How the hell do they get through doors? They would, but only once, and then that door would no longer be there.
They'd smash through half the wall. Yeah, exactly.
But in gameplay terms, they can open and close doors as normal.
Okay, they can crouch. Whatever.
They can crouch. Okay, so the visibility stuff is a little bit different, and it does mean that it can lead to some really tense things. So say you can hug all your guys in a line along one side of a corridor.
Mm-hmm.
That means that if they're all hugging the left-hand side, then that means units that are on the corner to the right, you're going to be able to get more of them to line of sight to them.
Makes sense, yeah.
But if you're on the left, then none of your guys are going to be able to get a line of sight to them.
Yeah. So if you've got a narrowish corridor, the most you're going to have is 3 people firing down it, because you'll have 2 and a little gap between them.
It's
and
about the best you can manage to do.
Yeah. All right.
You know, it gives a reason to like stagger you guys about as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not clump up too much, which I think is cool.
Okay.
And it does make for a more cinematic look to the game, which I think is wicked. When
you got less models, you can allow for that sort of thing. So that's
and
cool.
I quite like the visibility through units thing as well, because it means you can literally screen out characters, for example. You know, if you put a couple of intercessors in front of your captain, well, then they can't shoot your captain.
Yeah.
Your captain can't shoot them either because the intercessor's in the way. But that's cool.
It does sound cool. This is why I really want to get a set of it, yeah.
It means that, like, you can have, you know, I've got in my head, a couple of Storm Shield guys bodyguarding for my captain. Then when I'm going to go into the attack, they'll get out of the way and he's going to come through. And
awesome.
I just think it's wicked. Right, so that was the main change that I thought was worth talking about. The other change to talk about is actions. Now, there are actions, and these are them, okay? And they are fixed. This is what you need. This is how the game works.
Right.
Not everything can do every action, but most things can do most of these actions, and it specifies exactly what you're going to want. Now, the question you were asking earlier, I knew you were going to ask, Mark. So I will put that on a separate slide before you get too excited about it. Okay?
Okay.
Because everybody's asking that same question. So I thought we'd talk about a couple of these. Now, secure site, I think, is a really useful one. Anything with obset can do an action.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. At the end of their movement phase, if they complete that action on an objective, then you've sticky objective it.
Okay.
Okay. Which is great because it means that anything with obset can do this. Now, I know we play Space Marines predominantly, so we've got sticky objectives anyway, but this means that anybody can sticky an objective. They've just got to do an action to do it.
And it's part of the game mode, whereas current Space Marine sticky objectives is part of a temporary rules pack. This will stay.
This stays.
Yeah.
And this
All
is
right.
great because it means that things like my custodians can do it if I wanted them to in this sort of thing, which I think is cool.
Okay.
But it is only units with objective secured. Now, be careful with this because it is units with objective secured, not troops. So as long as you've got OBSEC on a unit, which you can give to a unit with certain abilities or special rules, like for custodians, for example, then this will work. So Overwatch. This works slightly differently than it does in 40k. In this mode, it's more like classic Overwatch from 2nd edition.
Oh, cool.
In that you can give up your shooting to automatically shoot someone who comes into line of sight. So let's say you've got a squad and you think, right, well, he's going to come around that corner next turn and try and get for that objective. So I'm going to line all of my guys up here, set them on Overwatch.
Mm-hmm.
And then when his unit comes out, we can all shoot at them. Now, it's the same as Overwatch when you're getting charged in that you only hit on 6s.
Okay,
but
that doesn't sound.
It might be
so
worth
great.
it. Oh, it's pretty good when using flamers.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Oh, so flamers are going to be the meta, right?
I think flamers might be quite fun. I don't think they're going to be the meta because they're just the same as they are in 40k, except that you're a bit closer, and being able to set your flamers for when somebody comes through that door is pretty fun.
I was going to say, what about we don't see it very often, but firstborn Terminators with a flamer. That could be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Space Hulk.
They have a heavy flamer, actually, don't they?
You can
Yeah,
set
they come with a heavy flamer. That's right.
So you can set your Terminators up with the heavy flamers and stuff and wait for the Gene Stealers to come around the corner.
Or my unit of Blood Angels Devastators with 4 heavy flamers might finally be fucking useful.
Oh, yeah, I'd run that. That'd be wicked.
And the lieutenant with a combi flamer for the reroll to wound as well.
Now, there are a couple of caveats to this. It will go off. Now, I can't see any reason you have to activate it. So, Overwatch is resolved if a unit ends a... So, each time an enemy unit is set up on the battlefield, so they're coming from reserves, they'll get shot at, moves, advances, falls back, or charges, or opens a hatchway. So, you can all sit behind the door, waiting for them to open the door. But they can only do it once.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So let's say you've got your unit of Terminators and they open the door. You can flame them, but you can't then flame them again if they come through the door.
Yeah, makes sense.
But I can't see anything that says you have to do it when they do one of those actions. So I don't think, and someone can correct me, that you can bait this out. So you might think, right, well, I don't want him overwatching my Howling Banshees with that heavy flamer. So I'm going to walk this unit in first, trigger off the Overwatch, and then bring the Howling Banshees in later.
I suppose the question is, it says can or may. It doesn't say must at all.
Yeah, and that, exactly.
Yeah.
So to me, that means that as the player who owns the firing models, the overwatching models, you can pick when you activate that.
Yeah, although you could use something to block a line of sight to a more valuable target, which would preclude you overwatching that other unit. So you'd have a difficult choice of making that, which is fine.
So
that's fine. That's tactical play.
Stand a company veteran right in front of the heavy flamer.
Yeah, because he could be because units that come in units. I'll talk about this later. But units that come in squads smaller than 5 have to be minimum sized.
How much is a unit of Devastators with heavy flamers these days? Do they actually cost?
About
135, I think.
So a couple of other ones. There are some rules in that says that will allow a unit to hold steady. If a unit makes an Overwatch attack while it's holding steady, then you can hit on the 5. I think only off the top of my head, I can only think of Tower that have that, but I'm sure there's more, and I just can't think of them. And the other option is to set to defend. You can set to defend the same as you can in 40k to get that +1 hit. Do you ever set to defend in 40k?
No, never.
Sometimes.
If I'm lucky, I remember it exists.
I always forget it exists.
Yeah.
I think I've remembered it about twice. So these are kind of your core actions, but the most important one, this is what everyone keeps asking questions about, is opening doors. Now, I'm just going to answer this really, really quickly because the same question, can Death Company open doors? Yes, is the answer. They can. Because it would be stupid if they can't. And it clearly says, because someone else has thought of this as well, this action can be performed by any unit that is not within engagement range of any enemy models, even if that unit is being affected by a rule that would normally prevent them from performing actions.
Okay. Cool.
So that means that Death Company can do this action. They can open doors. They can't do any of this other stuff, but they can open the door and chainsaw everybody that's in there.
So stack up your Death Company psychopaths and character upgrades and everything. Yeah.
I really think the Death Company Intercessors will be a laugh for this. 5 Intercessors with a Thunderhammer.
I thought they were. I was really excited to use them until I found out about the no strats tool, which means you can't buff their Feel No Pain from 6 to 5 and you can't give them transhuman. And that was part of the reason why I was interested in taking them.
Doesn't matter. I've made a mistake, actually. Later on, I'm going to show you the mission, but I'm only going to show you one mission. It's the first one, and it's the only mission that has an open area, really, in the whole pack. All the rest are little rooms and corridors and stuff.
Okay.
So if you're on them, they're not going to take... It's going to be who opens the door is the one that's going to get clobbered.
All right.
Does that make sense? So you might open the door and then somebody else will clobber the Death Company, or the Death Company open the door and clobber you. There's not going to be a lot of sitting around in the open getting shot at. It's these kind of fights are going to be short and they're going to be brutal.
The opening of the door has to happen after you've moved.
Yes. And you can do it after you've advanced as well.
But then if the enemy have a model sitting on the door, you would roll off to see basically if they're opening the door or not, which is pretty interesting.
You can hold the door shut basically, and you can you roll off against each other's strength. But
and if you try and open the door from off to one side somewhere, you'd be holding it so somebody with a gun can be standing there covering the door as you're trying to open it.
The other thing that's important to note is if someone opens the hatchway and that puts them immediately within engagement range, then you are now engaged, but neither of you charged. That's kind of like the open the door. Shit, there's a person right there. We've got to stab him. You've got no momentum of a charge or anything.
Yeah, that's cool. I'll take that.
You're just in combat.
So the defender would fight first, right?
They would both count as fight normal, which means the person whose turn it is not would get to pick a unit's fight.
So that's not the best thing for Space Marines because you don't get shock assault.
Yeah, it's really not a good thing, is it?
Not Blood Angels either, because there's so many bonuses you get while charging.
We won't get our bonuses to charge, but it is quite funny.
You got to watch out for that one then.
Yeah, and it does mean that it is a valid tactic to just randomly stick people in front of doorways. Because let's say
if you don't want to get charged, yeah, absolutely.
Because you stick a unit of troops or something in front of that doorway, it doesn't count as charging, and if they don't kill it, then next turn you can fall back and charge, and someone else can charge him and count as charging.
All right, cool.
So some bit of tactical play in there, which I quite like. So yeah, you can see why I put this on its own page, because everybody's asking, oh, Death Company can't do actions, they can't do it. Yes, they can. Don't worry, you can run just an all Death Company. If
they
you
can't do actions, they can do this one.
So the next thing I wanted to talk about very quickly is the terrain. It's gorgeous, and it is really needed. I'm not going to talk too much about it because there's not a lot to say, really. It's lovely plastic terrain, and it is lined up with the missions. The missions actually refer to individual pieces of terrain by name.
Okay.
Each piece of terrain has got a code, like A1, A2, A3, whatever. And when you're setting up the missions, it will literally say, place wall A2 in this position. Yes.
If I've got a shitload of normal terrain, then I can make a nice, densely packed board out of like a load of ruins or buildings and whatnot. Is there any real reason why I couldn't do that?
This is what's bugging me a little bit as well. Yes and no. There's no reason that you can't just put the terrain however you damn well please.
Obviously, you wouldn't be able to use the missions as written. You'd have to play your own.
Yeah, you'd have to make your own mission to go with it, because the missions are tied, like completely tied to the terrain.
To each layout. Yeah.
Yeah, there are companies that are making their own terrain that
The
fits
same way they
pattern.
did with Kill Team competitive missions and all this sort of thing. The layout is designed to be even on both sides. Yeah.
If you don't have this layout, then you can't play that mission, really.
Okay.
You make your own up. You can use the rules from it, whatever, if you like, but it is really tough, which is annoying because let's say you've got a load of Zone Mortalis from Forge World, which cost £1 million but looks amazing.
Yeah.
You can't build these terrain layouts with it.
I see. Yeah, that would be a little frustrating. But the flip side, you've got amazing terrain you could make your own custom missions with quite happily, and it would look and play fucking wonderfully, I'm sure.
It does. It's just maybe not as balanced, but then...
Yeah.
You know, okay. So far, I've found this mode to be fairly balanced. Fairly balanced. There are some things that are a bit maybe not so balanced.
Are the maps symmetrical then?
Yeah, largely.
Largely, okay.
Or mirrored, one way or the two.
The mirrored, yeah. So they are pretty balanced. There's a couple of builds that you can do that I don't think are very balanced. You can run Abaddon in this mode.
Yeah, I mean,
he's most of your army, but who gives a shit because he's so powerful that you don't care, and just stomp around, murderifying everything because there's not a lot in 500 points that's going to kill him back. So, and if I'm honest, I don't think it's very fair either because they've actually specifically nerfed Farsight and made him worse in this mode. He loses an attack and a couple of other things. He loses an attack and only gets a 6-inch move, but they've left Abaddon perfectly alone.
I was going to say Abaddon. They should have just removed his phase cap. That would have been the way to do it.
Doesn't he count as a monster?
He's got a special rule that lets you run him. The special
rule
also
the Primarch Supreme Commander rule thing. Yeah, I vaguely remember that now.
It's not a general rule. It's specific to an army. Each army has got its own set of rules that go with building a patrol for that army, with a couple of changes to their rules and a couple of tweaks here and there.
Yeah, I remember that now because we commented on how it specifically referred. No, that was Arxvome.
Yeah, we did.
Sorry,
a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it does mean that you can run like Gilliman can run in this as well. And if the line is released, then you probably can run him because again they say Primarch, not Gilliman.
But as we discussed previously, you wouldn't bother because the line's a dick anyway.
Exactly. But yeah, so you can build a couple of slightly broken ones, but as long as you're not going crazy with it, you know who you're playing against. It's pretty balanced so far.
Good.
I've not played anything that's been too unbalanced. And it's actually let me use a few units that I don't normally use, which we'll talk about later. So yeah, that's the terrain. Let's get into the missions as we talked about them. So this is the first mission out of the book. It's a bit wonky, which is really bugging me, but I wasn't going to retake the picture.
Sorry,
okay.
Sorry, mate.
You said you were going to go on about minimum size units. Is that coming after the missions?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I mean, I don't know.
Just checking.
Just checking, because I was thinking about Blade Guard, and I was like, you didn't answer my Blade Guard question, but let's move. We'll do missions first, then you can answer my Blade Guard question.
I've put army selection as a whole separate thing and a couple of examples and stuff.
Okay,
all right,
cool.
Okay,
that's
cool.
Good to hear because I had some questions on that as well.
Because I feel that's where like a bit of meat's going to be, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair.
So this is I've just put one of the missions. This is the first mission out of the book, and I've literally taken a picture of the book. One thing that I really like, and this is common to all the missions, is the idea of an underdog bonus.
Right.
That means if you have got less points than the opponent has, you gain a CP when you start the game.
All right.
And the reason for that is there's a few armies that's really difficult to be hitting your 500 points on the nose.
Okay.
Because there's a few other restrictions on that. So all of the lists, more or less, that I've brought along haven't got 500 points in them.
Okay.
And that's because of restrictions here and there. Because you do not have the flexibility. It's not like you say, I'll chuck in another Sanguinary guy. I'll chuck in another guy to make up those points. You can't do that. Especially with all the war gear changes from the Munitorum manual where you don't pay for war gear anymore. So if you've got 10 points left over, there's fuck all to spend it on.
Okay.
Anyway, so you can see, so you get this map that goes with it. And you can also see on that map that the parts are labelled. So this is wall A4. This is wall B2. You can see where the hatches are. The other thing that is important to note from this is the idea of entry points. So
Right.
those squares on there are your entry points, and you start the game by putting a unit on each one of those entry points. If
Okay.
you've run out of entry points, then that unit's go in reserve and can come
Okay.
on in turn 2 on those entry points. And the idea is it's kind of bottlenecking,
Fair enough.
and it stops you bringing as many smaller units as you can because you're going to bottleneck them because they can't get through the hatches. Something else to note, things like jump pack assaults don't work. You can't do it. No deep striking for you, thank you very much, because it's very difficult to jetpack through a steel deck.
What about teleport strike?
You can teleport strike,
Okay.
which makes Terminators, I think, wicked.
Well,
Fair enough.
they always were wicked.
They always were, but it's how cool is that? You can't deep strike from a jump pack or jump out of an orca or something, but you can teleport in with all your boarding. You can fully space hulk it.
I need to
Should be able to
sound it.
take
We
a
need to
termite then, and have a termite drill its way through the Space Hulk, and then just
I mean, that would be wicked, but you can't because, no vehicles.
yeah.
Anyway, so that's kind of the way you would set up your game. Other than that, the roll off attacker defender, roll off the first turn. That's all the same as it is in normal 40k.
Is there no secondaries? Is it just
there
points?
are and there aren't. You've got a primary objective, you can see there. So in this one, it's hold more, hold one, hold two, hold more. Get points. The secondary changes per mission. So you don't pick a secondary.
That's the purge the ship thing on there, is it then?
It absolutely is. So in this one, you gain secondary points by the amount of the opponent that you killed by the end of the game. So if you kill, so you get 15 victory points for each one of these criteria you hit. If you've killed 125 points of models, you get 15 victory points. If you've killed 250 points of models, you get 30 victory points. And if you kill 375 points or more of models, you get the full 45 victory points for doing it.
So it's still essentially 45, 45, and 10 then, are we?
It's exactly the same, yeah.
Okay.
Anyone who doesn't
what
get
this
10,
does is
If 10th ed is imminent, then that hints strongly that they're keeping that part of the system at least.
It also really encourages you to kill your enemy.
Good.
Which I quite like, because it means there's no I'm going to hide.
And it's by points rather than model count or unit count or any other such
exactly.
bollocks, which is
so
fine.
if you're rocking someone really expensive, then that's different, isn't it?
Good.
Sometimes
which I think's like.
I was going to say, sometimes I miss that. See, when I was a kid, we never played any of the objective shit in 40k. We just set the armies up. We just went till somebody had no models left. And sometimes
you just wail on each other till everyone's dead.
Yeah, sometimes
that was fun until I fought a Tau army.
Best game ever, yeah. So this sounds cool to me.
Yeah, and because of the way that you've got all these corridors and that, if you rock up with a big shooty army, well, you're going to be in trouble because someone's going to come through those little hatchways on the side and punch you in the face before you get to shoot you guys.
Just out of curiosity, see this objective on the left between, I think it's B2 and B3.
Yeah.
What would be how many inches are we talking from the door to the objective and then to the door above? You know, if you say you open that hatchway there at B2,
see,
if they were on that objective.
You only hold objectives within 1 inch now, not within 3.
But it's just to say he had a unit within 1 inch or right on top of that objective. What charge am I needing when I open that door in my movement phase? So I have to charge a unit.
A 2 or 3 inch charge.
Oh, really? It's that close?
Yeah.
Each of those squares they're depicting there is what, a couple inches?
I think so. Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe 3 inches.
So basically, it's almost unfailable charges. Yeah. So shooting armies are going to have
a couple of inches tops.
They're going to have a bad time in this, I would assume.
If you go all shooty, absolutely, yeah. Because you're going to get punched in the face. And this is this has got the biggest open area out of any of the missions.
Okay.
The other ones,
back on the menu, boys.
Exactly. The other missions, I should give you an example of a couple of these. So like this one, for example, this is all corridors.
Ooh, nice.
So that was
the one on the picture you showed us a moment ago.
I think it was.
I think so. Yeah.
I'm just grabbing another random one. It's all corridors. So mostly you're in nice and close. So if you are playing someone like Tau, it behooves you to bring a lot of close. Things like breaches are going to be much better than because your ranges are quite short and you're going to be hitting really hard. Bring a nice balanced army. Don't just rock up with all guns because you're going to be in trouble. But likewise, I don't think you want to rock up with all melee, because if you've got all melee and you've got to walk across that middle section, you're going to get shot to shit.
Yeah.
So it encourages a balanced army, but it also encourages, and this is something that I found so far, a big army.
I was going to say, a big army?
In terms of model count?
In terms of unit and model count, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Because the way you hold objectives is number of models. But also, you want to be able to hold lots of objectives at the same time.
Yeah.
And if you want to say you're playing this map and you need to hold 3 objectives, you've only got 3 units, well, then you can't do anything else.
Yeah, makes sense.
So bringing more, so you've got some cheaper units to sit on objectives, and that is quite valuable if you want to play more competitively. But although this is quite balanced, it's really not designed for that.
All right.
Okay, so there's a mission. That's what they look like.
Sounds cool.
They're all pretty fun. Now we'll talk about mustering. So this is how you build your army list. Now, I've trimmed down the rules here a little bit, but I think it's still worth going. You have to use the boarding patrol detachment, and you will note there are no compulsory slots.
Okay. Yeah.
But you are only allowed 1 HQ, up to 3 troops, and up to 3 elites. Now, there's a few other rules that go along with this. You're only allowed 1 of each type of elite slot.
1 of each type of data sheet.
Yeah.
Right.
So you cannot, which is annoying, you cannot run, which is my initial thing that I wrote, which was
3
2 units of alloys.
Or 3 of the same.
You can't just run 6 blade guard, or 2 units of blade guard or something. Yeah. You can't do that.
You could cheat it and do assault terminators and relic terminators and normal terminators. So
you can, depending on your army and if it allows you to do that, because some do and some don't.
Okay.
You're not allowed anything. Now, this is important because unless your personal mustering rules say otherwise, because each army has got its own special rules that will tweak this a little bit in different ways.
Okay. Is this to allow things like tower battle suits and stuff?
Exactly. So you cannot include any models that have the keywords monster, vehicle, jump pack, cavalry, biker, or fly.
Okay.
You can also only have 1 model with the character keyword.
Whether it's elite or HQ or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly.
Fine. Okay.
There are exceptions to this. For example, Imperial Guard can take 5. But they can only have 1 with 5 wounds or more. And that's because they've got lots of little guys that hangers on.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. They'd want to be able to.
Other exceptions to this, as you'll note, there's no fast attack slots.
Yeah.
However, custodians, if you were to, although this is slightly broken on this one, doesn't quite work, you're allowed to bring a single unit of Witch Seekers, which are a fast attack choice.
Okay.
Tyrannies can bring a squad of Rippers.
I have this vague recollection of Space Marines can take assault squads without jump packs.
They might be able to, but I can't remember. All
right.
There's no heavy support slots on there, but Space Marines have an exception that says that they can bring Hellblasters or Eradicators.
Mm-hmm.
Just 1 unit, but they can bring a unit of. And this is what I mean by these kind of exceptions.
Okay.
This is like a general thing, but each army's got its own, which I think makes sense because Eradicators with the melter guns,
the more
cutting through
foot
walls.
infantry based. Oh, you didn't say Devastators in there. Are Devastators in that list?
I don't know that they are actually. We'll see it in a minute anyway.
Okay, all
because
right.
I've got the rules for Space Marines that I can come up on the later slide.
Excellent.
Ironically, I'm now at the bit that John wanted to ask his question about Blade Guard for.
Yep, that's all right. You can hear us.
So, select unit size. Unless the boarding action rules for your chosen factions say otherwise, which occasionally they do, a unit's minimum size is less than 5. You can only include that unit if it's a minimum size unit. So, for example, I'm using them again, but custodians come in units of 3 to 6. You have to use them in a unit of 3.
Okay, all right. So
Blade Guard come in a unit of 3 to
2.
6. Got to be in a unit of 3. Company Vets, unit 2.
All right. Fair enough. Cool.
If a unit's minimum size is 5, you can bring it as 5, or you can bring it as 10.
If I were to bring a captain,
Yep.
That as part of its rules says, well, no, it's not as part of its rules. The company vet's rules say if you have a captain in your list, you can bring a company vet unit that doesn't fit in the normal Force Org slot rules. Is that still a thing?
They actually have a specific point for company vets, and that you are not allowed to bring them if you don't have a captain. You have to bring you have to have the captain to be allowed to bring any company vets.
Do they count as a free as a Force Org?
I think they do, yeah, but I might be wrong. It's on the next slide anyway. So
cool. I appreciate that's a very niche question. That's fine.
And because there's a few other armies that have similar kind of weird interactions like that.
Okay.
And they make a big deal out of that. You cannot include a unit with a starting strength of more than 10 models. Just flat.
All right.
And when you actually deploy, any units of 10 get split into 2 units of 5.
So Chaos Army can't just flood the board with fucking cultists.
They can't. So your units are going to be 5 strong. The exception, which doesn't come up later on, I like this, was Gaunts. So Gaunts, I think, as far as I can tell from my reading through, are the only unit that can run in squads more than 5.
Fair enough.
Because it's cool.
Yeah, all right. I can see
a
that.
horde of bugs coming through. That's just cool. We want that.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything else gets forced to slot down.
Is the GC the unit capped at 10?
I think it's capped at 5.
Okay. As part of the special Tyranid rules or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's part of their normal rules. Their normal rules are, I think, 5 to 10.
Right.
So you could bring a single unit of 10, but it'd be split into 5.
2 units of 5. Right, I get you. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Oh, I see. So it's got to be 5 or 10. Right.
Yeah. You couldn't bring a unit of 7.
Okay.
Which is kind of what I was getting at earlier with it. Can be quite tricky sometimes to make up the points.
Yeah, I get you.
To say you've got 30 points spare, well, you can't buy anything for 30 points in a Space Marine Codex. So your combat patrol is going to be 470 points.
Fair enough.
And I found that quite a lot with when I was trying to build custodian ones.
That makes sense.
Because they have no smaller units and no paid upgrades. It would make it quite difficult to get it up to 500, which I think is why that underdog rule is in there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get that. That's fine. We can pop back to this briefly if John wants us to go back over it again.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so we'll roll on then, because this is the bit that he's going to be most interested in. Would it be most? No, we'll come back to that. Enhancements. So I said earlier, you don't get any warlord traits or relics. Instead, your character model can take an enhancement, as long as he's not a special character. You can't stick it on Mephiston.
An enhancement replaces both of those, essentially, then, I take it.
Yeah, this is what you have instead.
Okay. Does it cost CP?
No.
Okay.
So you can have an enhancement. Now, something that's important is you must have a warlord, and that warlord is your character. If you don't have a character because you haven't got to bring one, then it will be a sergeant of one of your squads. Will count as the warlord, or if you haven't got anything, then you just have to designate a dude.
Fair enough.
That guy.
Okay.
That guy's the boss.
So
some of the enhancements then. As kind of
how many enhancements are there? I appreciate you've put 6 on here.
6.
Oh, is that all of them?
That's all of them.
Okay, right.
So your enhancements are post-quarters killer, personal teleporter, superior boarding tactics, defensive linchpin, expert breacher, and trademark weapon. Now, superior boarding tactics is what you get as default. If you say if you don't pick anything, that's what you've got, and it just means you start the game with 2 extra CP,
which is not shit.
It's not shit because you only start these games with 1 CP.
Oh, right. Okay, fair enough.
But there's not a lot to spend it on either.
Mm-hmm.
So
and you get CP in every player turn.
In every player turn, in your command phase, you get CP.
Okay, yeah, cool.
So I thought we'd whiz over these. Close quarters killer, reroll wounds, just flat reroll wounds.
In melee, yep.
In melee, which I think is quite nice. Personal teleporter means that your dude can teleport in.
Cool.
Even if they can't normally, which I think is wicked because it means you've got a captain or something, not a Terminator captain. You can teleport him in.
Yeah, absolutely. Which
especially if you've got something like a Gravis captain or something like that. That cool Gravis captain with the chainsaws and stuff. You can teleport him right in the middle there.
Yeah.
And go and have a fight, which I think is pretty cool. Defensive linchpin. Friendly unit is within 6 inches of the bearer. Each time a model in that unit fires Overwatch, its unit can hold steady.
Which means Overwatch on a 5+.
Yep.
That's very tasty.
It is,
Oh,
especially if you're playing a...
That's really cool. That's very setting up lines of fire in Overwatch to shoot down the charging hordes of stuff. I like
So
that.
if you're playing Tau and you've got your Cadre Fireblade or whatever, leading your teams of breachers that can now all Overwatch on a 5, then maybe opening that door to stick your Terminator, to stick your Death Company into them is going to hurt.
Cool.
As he's lined up all of his guys, because you do that, you'd line them all up so they've all got line of sight on that hatchway. And say, go on, open that door then.
We've just done unit sizes and stuff, John. Don't know if you heard it. If you want us to go back over it at all.
I did hear it all. What I kind of
questions?
missed there at the end was how much these enhancements cost and how awesome it will be to teleport in my Gravis Captain in Death Company
They
armor.
don't cost anything. Your character in charge or not character in charge, whoever they are, gets one of these, and that's just it.
That's just it. Oh, cool. Okay.
And these
Which
are
I
all
think
of
is
them you
pretty
get to
wicked.
pick from.
So this is what was I saying? Oh yeah, superior boarding tactics. We talked about that. Just get
You've done that one.
SGP. Expert breacher. This is pretty fun. The bearer can start to perform the operate hatchway action when they're selected to make a normal move. If they do so, the action is completed immediately, and they cannot perform the attack. This means that they can open the door and run into it,
And then move. Ooh.
and then charge.
Yeah.
So you can, so say like, I don't know, they're cowering on the other side of a room or whatever. You can open the door, run in there, and then charge them.
Nice.
So none of this opening the door and then already being in combat malarkey. You can just
Or
get
shoot
in
them
there.
with your
And,
venom pistol and charge them, or whatever. Yeah.
exactly, which I think is pretty wicked. And the last one is a simple one, but I think quite a good one for a lot of armies. Trademark weapon. Increase the strength and damage characteristics of your weapon by 1.
Question. Can
Yes.
you give this shit to named characters?
No.
Damn it. So what if you've got a named character, you just have to give
You just
up an
don't get one.
enhancement?
You
don't get it at all. You forfeit getting an enhancement by bringing a named character.
I finally thought that we were going to get a useful Mephiston with that last trademark weapon, but I guess not.
I think he's going to be pretty cool anyway, to be
I
honest.
think he is, yeah.
D3+1 would have been super good, though.
It would have,
It would.
but strength
Oh, yeah,
11
yeah.
would be fairly irrelevant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But it does mean things like Gravis Captains and stuff are pretty wicked.
Yeah, the Power Fist Gravis Captain is going to be wicked, isn't he?
Damage 3.
Damage 3, Strength 9, Power Fist.
Might have to get on with converting my old graphics captain then.
I like it because this is a chance to use all those really heavily armored Blood Angels that you've got, but you never use because they're too slow.
Yeah.
Yes. 100%.
That's why I'm thinking Death Company Intercessors, because I've got stacks of Assault Intercessors that are not built or painted. I've
was gonna say-
literally got stacks of them.
Mine are still on the sprue from Indomitus, which is like 2 years ago at this point. 2.5
That's what I
years
mean.
ago.
So
Yeah.
I've got loads
I've
of that
got
magazine.
10 that I
and-
built and did, and a couple more to customize and put like power swords and thunderhammers on for sergeants and stuff. So I'll look forward to that.
So I'm just going to build a load of Assault Intercessors into Death Company Intercessors.
I'll have to add that to my to-do list.
I just think it'll be a laugh. I don't think they'll be good, but I think it'll be a laugh.
Yeah,
I think they'll be okay, man.
I
mean,
think
they
they'll be
get
okay because
7
they're cheap.
attacks on
90
the chart.
points.
Yeah, and they get 7 attacks. 7 chainsword attacks is not an
Forget that
insequential
7
number of
Thunderhammer
attacks. It would be 6 because you don't get the +1, but still.
All
Would be-
right, 6 Thunderhammer attacks.
Still good, isn't it?
That's still pretty good. And then all the other dudes get 7 chainsword attacks.
Yeah.
So
Choppy chop.
yeah, that's your enhancements. Now I've realised that I've literally missed out a page, so we're going to have to. I'm very sorry, I've missed out a page because there should be a page that says stratagems. So I'm just going to tell you what there are because there are only 3 stratagems in the game.
All right.
For now, right? They said that each Arcs of Omen book would have more.
Did they?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Cool. Fair enough.
I mean, you got to buy those next Arc of Omen books, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I am anyway because this book's beautiful. I love it. So your first stratagem, command reroll.
Yes.
It's fair enough. Are they
Should be.
still limited to 1
Yep.
per thing per phase and all that shit?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Your second one, counteroffensive.
Okay. Makes
All right.
sense.
Your interrupts, but it costs 2 CP.
That's what it costs.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the
It
command
costs
reroll is
more.
only 1. Counteroffensive is 2. Remember, you only start with 1.
Oh, you only start with 1. Do you get 1 for each player's turn, or how do you generate command?
You
Oh,
get
sorry.
1 in your command phase.
Oh, not in each player's command phase.
I'll double check that, but I don't think you do.
Interesting.
The boarding. In boarding action battles at the start of each player's command phase before doing anything else, both players gain 1.
Otherwise,
so it's still the same.
Never interrupt. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So it's expensive though, because that's going to use up a lot of your. You haven't got anything else to spend it on. And the last
bring
one.
Bobby G and start with 3 CP extra.
No, you don't, because that's that a special rule or a warlord trait?
It's a special rule in his data sheet.
Is that? Oh, we would then. The last one is insane bravery.
You wouldn't bring Bobby G a 500 point game unless because you're 300 points.
So
you're
going to bring Abaddon to this shit.
Tony just said you won't be able to do anything but hold the 3 objectives then, because you'll have 3 squads, and Bobby G will be stuck on an objective holding it, so it'll be completely useless.
Yeah, or you just kill all the fuckers, and then you can put guys on there, but then the rest of them are dead.
Well, sure, I suppose.
I haven't played a lot of this to fully play test it out, and generally I've found you want to bring lots of guys, but there is also a lot of playing just bringing Abaddon and just punching people in the face. Because everybody's dead, then they can't score any points.
It's going to be fun no matter what.
So I think I could be wrong here.
Yep.
We're already talking about Blade Guard being super useful because in like actual 40k, because they've been vulnerable save into this new sort of Arts of Omen meta, they're going to be super useful because the minimum squad size is 3.
Yeah.
So you get 3 really punchy close combat guys.
150 points is it or something? Or 105 even?
105 or 35 points a model, yeah. So they're going to actually be really useful just because...
Except you can only bring 1 unit of them.
Yeah, but I guess you can just bring that 1 unit of 3 and that gives you a deadly close combat squad for just 100 points. And it's not like...
And 3 flamer aggressors just to go, fuck you, yeah.
True, yeah, and 90 points, yeah. So aggressors and blade guards are really nice in this.
Not bad.
Nobody wants flamer aggressor models either way. They're pretty cheap on eBay as well.
Are they?
Are they?
They've been dog shit for a
them
while.
up. I think they're cool. Okay, so let's get into some armies. So there's a picture of a clue for the first army that I've written out here for you.
Is it Black Templars?
Is it Gene Stealers?
Yes.
Is it fire?
Right,
is it
so here's our first one.
Is it Thor? Is it the God of Thunder?
Now, this is the specific rules for Space Marines. There is no distinction between Space Marines and Blood Angels and Space Wolves here. There are just Space Marines at this point in time. Like John says, maybe as more of these books come out, we might start getting some more. I reckon possibly that they might put the White Scars and things like that in these books. That's my theory.
All right.
Okay, so this is the rules. All of the guys in your boarding patrol must be from the same chapter.
Fine.
You can include a Lord of War, but only if it's a Primarch.
Fine.
You can include 1 fast attack unit, but only if it's Assault Squad that's got no jump packs.
There we go.
Or Fenrisian Wolves. But if you include Fenrisian Wolves, you can only have 5 of them.
Yeah.
You can include a heavy support unit, but only if it's Hellblasters or Eradicators. No Firstborn.
Boo! Bullshit. Fucking bollocks ass. Tit wank. No, that's crap. Seriously, why the fuck
can I not not a bad thing.
Why can I not bring a unit of Devastators?
To be honest, this game is clearly written for narrative. I've just sort out your opponent.
Yeah.
Because there's a bit of jank in here that even I've come across that means that it doesn't quite work in a couple of places. Yeah. Space Marines isn't too bad for it. Anyway, you can only have 1 company veterans unit if your boarding patrol includes at least 1 captain model. The unit must have a starting strength of 5 models.
Oh, so you got to bring a proper fucking command squad. Okay,
you've got to bring a unit of them.
Not just 2
but it does say that normal rules and data sheets apply. So I don't see why it would take up an elite slot. I don't think it would.
Fair. Okay.
You can only add 1 servitors unit and only if you've got Tech Marine.
But I read this and thought it's so stupid because there's no reason to take a Tech Marine, right? There's nothing to repair unless there's a mission that says you have to repair stuff.
A lot of their powers and buffs would be completely irrelevant, but the Primaris Tech Marine is a fairly cool model.
And it would make sense that he's on the Space Hulk trying to retrieve the data or break out the core or something like that. So if you're playing competitive, absolutely, you would never bring him. But if you're playing narrative, which is really what this whole event is about, then having a Tech Marine leading a couple of servitors and a bodyguard for him to do these missions and that, to retrieve the data or blow up the
There's definitely people who are going to want to
whatever.
make this a competitive game, but I think you're right. That's going to not really play to the strengths
No.
Okay.
of this game.
Yeah. this isn't a tournament game. But anyway, yeah, so that'd just be wicked cool. The second part, and this is for all of them again, is you have rules adaptations. And this is where things that just jank out, or if you've got a rule that's a bit overpowered, comes in. So you don't get to combat squad. That's pretty obvious. When an enemy model makes a ranged attack that targets a unit with Shadow Masters or Stealthy, so your Raven Guard and that, if the attacking model is more than 6 inches away, they count as having cover. Otherwise...
What kind of cover?
There is only one kind of cover in this game, in this mode.
That would be light
That
cover,
is
right?
light cover. Yeah.
That's the
Plus one,
save.
Yes.
Because you couldn't have dense cover because I suppose smoke.
Could have been dense, yeah.
But
maybe
Yeah.
future boots.
They've
They did
chosen
say
not
future
to
boots.
for whatever reason. So
they've
okay,
chosen
fine.
to simplify it. Cover's cover. It's just light cover.
And
That's all
6
it is.
inches because that makes perfect sense.
Otherwise, your Raven Guard would never get to have their benefits.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Fenrisian Wolves can't perform actions. And,
And
you
then
can't outflank.
nerfed scouts.
But
How
they can
dare
open
they?
doors.
I guess they can open doors, yeah.
Yeah.
They're very
Definitely,
clever. Maybe they just rip it down. Who cares?
I was going to say,
So, go on.
you've seen Day After Tomorrow, the wolves can open doors, can't they?
Fair enough.
Do you remember Dog Soldiers? Do you ever see that?
Yeah.
Yes, a
sadly.
long
The
time
werewolves.
ago.
That
Yes.
was-
The
Fucking
Scottish
awful.
Werewolves. That was a wicked film. I loved it.
It was
Okay.
one of those so bad it's good movies.
So I've made my Space Marine boarding patrol,
Go on in.
and I've called it Calistarius Redux.
Yep.
And it's Mephiston.
Yep.
A 5-man Terminator Assault Squad, and a 5-man normal Terminator Squad, with 2 chain fists and a heavy flamer in it.
Only 2 chain fists.
Yeah, that in a mixture. What's the point in bringing a chain fist for damage 3 on against vehicles when you can't bring vehicles?
True.
All right.
True.
So all I'm doing is trading in my flat damage
'Cause
2
it's
for
got
a D3
point-
damage.
Of extra AP.
Yeah, it's got one extra AP, I guess.
I'll cope.
You'll cope.
All
And
right,
if
would
I
have been-
need that one over the other one, I'll kill the guys without the chain fist first.
You would have
okay.
been better you would have been better because you've got 45 points left. You would have been better just doing the 1 squad of Blade Guard veterans and the 1 squad of aggressors.
Are
Yeah,
there
okay.
any?
But then, have you ever seen any Blade Guard veterans in Space Hulk, John?
Oh, because because you named it Calistarius. Well, have you ever seen aggressors?
It's
in
my Space Hulk. No, that's why there's no aggressors in there either.
Okay, but Mephiston was a Terminator armor.
Was
Which is Terminator armor?
That's 'cause
Technically,
you can't carry it, can't fit in it anymore.
he outgrew it with he went Primaris. Okay.
I got another question, which
Go on.
has occurred to me off the back of this. If you've covered it already and I've ignored it, I do apologise, but I don't think you have. Things like auras and buffs and radiuses and psychic powers.
You're right,
and
I
things
haven't covered it.
through walls and doors and stuff.
Doesn't
Great.
work. You need line of sight. Basically, everything that would normally not need line of sight does need line of sight now. So if you've got weapons that can shoot without line of sight, they do now.
Okay.
If you've got abilities that can go through walls, they can't now. You can't smite through walls or anything else. You've got line of sight for it. It also means that because you need line of sight, you cannot smite through your own guys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Okay. So this is my first list. Now,
So
before
there's
we go
nothing
any
else
further-
you could fill those 45 points with. Is that what you're talking about? So you would start with an extra command point because
Yeah.
there's no other squad that can fit
There's
that
no
45
squad.
points.
Not that
costs
you'd be
45
allowed to. You
points.
couldn't bring company vets. You couldn't bring
and you
servitors.
I was going to say, and you can't add an extra Terminator.
No,
No.
because you've got a minute, unit 5
You can,
or
you can
unit
either
10.
do 5 models or 10 models, or lower than that if the squad's minimum size is lower than that.
If
you
the
can't,
squad
like,
minimum
put an extra
size is
one
lower
in.
than that, it has to be smaller than that. So, for example, you can't run a unit of aggressors in anything but a unit of 3.
Could you have run a squad of Voidsmen at Arms for 40 points?
Yeah, but they're not in Space Hulk either.
Yeah, but it gives you chaff to put on an objective, doesn't
But-
it?
But they're not in Space Hulk, John.
Yeah, but you could pull the wool
But
over
you're
your
really
eyes
missing
and
the
just
point
have
here.
chaff on that objective.
God, if
Could
I
you,
wanted
though?
to win,
No,
I wouldn't
I'm
run
not-
10
are you allowed to-
Terminators and a Mephiston.
I was going to say, but can you
No,
can we
you can't.
include
I don't
Agents
think-
of Imperium?
No, I don't think you can use allies.
Okay. Interesting.
I'm just double
Because the
checking
Agents of the Imperium rules states you need to have a patrol or battalion or brigade detachment in order to put an agent in and have it not.
and this is
take
not
up a
one of
slot.
any. This is none of those detachments. Okay.
So I
Makes
don't
sense.
think you can, but I
Technically,
could be
no.
wrong on this.
And
I
we
could
all
be
know
wrong, and maybe there's
technically-
a special rule that I haven't spotted.
Technically correct is the best kind
But
of
no, I
correct.
don't think you can.
Okay. Cool. So-
Which is
Right.
sad, but because the other list that I didn't put on here that I originally wrote was all 4 assassins,
Okay.
and then
but-
because I had like 100 points spare, I just thought, fuck it, I'll chuck in an extra Eversol and just go full execution force. But you can't do that either because you can only bring one character.
yeah. It's been a long
But
time
because
since I
this
played
is
Execution
clearly
Force.
this
But
is
yeah.
clearly narrative.
But fuck
If
it,
I rocked
do
up,
it anyway.
I can't imagine anybody really having a problem going, look, I'm going to take a 100-point hit,
For the,
but
for
I'm
the sake
just
of an
going to
hour,
run.
for the sake of
Yeah.
a game for an hour, yeah. All right,
I'm just going to run all 4 of the assassins.
that'd be nice.
That is a
I
cool
really
game,
hope those new
Execution
Horus Heresy
Force.
assassins get 40k rules at some point because they're cool.
I really hope they do. They're super cool, but they're so expensive. Do you see how much money they cost?
They're what, 35 quid each?
30 quid each, but still 30 quid for a single
Oh yeah,
human-sized dude.
resin model. Yeah,
That's a lot. Even for Forge World, that's
I was
a
going to say
lot.
that seems a lot because Helbrecht was 30, and I thought to myself like that's quite a lot for a single character, and he's giant. Helbrecht.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is just a guy. They're not. We're not talking anything. They've not got fancy scenic bases or stuff coming off them.
same
This
for the
is
new
just-
guard character. Ursula Creed is like 30 quid for one human-sized character model.
And she's bigger than the.
Not much bigger. Granted, she's got a little bit of a fancy base, but that's about it. Anyway. Yes, Tony.
Yeah.
All right.
You could probably fit one of those assassins in there.
Okay. Shall we move on?
Yes. Let's.
Okay, so that was my first list, and
Okay.
these are all legal, but I didn't say they were good. I just think
Alright.
they're cool.
Yep.
This is my second list.
Okay. A
Another
bunch
bit of
of
classic
golden
artwork.
banana custard boy weirdo things.
So this is the rules for the Adeptus Custodians.
Mhm.
You've got to have them all from the same shield host. Makes sense. You can include a fast attack slot, but only if it's a Witch Seekers unit. You can include a Custodian Wardens unit if its starting strength is 3 or 6. When forming boarding squads, if if Custodian units is 6, you have to split into 2. You can include Alaris Custodians if its starting strength is 1, 2, or 3, so you don't have to take these as a minimum squad.
And you split them into units of one. Okay, yeah, cool.
But you can split them into units of 1, which is cool. I wish you could take.
Oh,
up to
you
4
can.
units of
You don't
6.
have to. It's
No,
no. Okay.
but that would be so cool to take the unit of 6 and split it into 6 individual guys.
That would be
But
pretty
you
cool.
can't. But you can't do it. You can take 3 and split into 3 individual guys.
Yeah.
Um,
What type
could-
are they? Are they troops or are they elites?
they're elites, but it doesn't
They're
matter
elites.
too much because
Yeah.
all the infantry's got OBSEC.
No, I was more
Um,
worried about data sheet limitations.
Yeah, you can only bring 1 unit because the first version, or I was messing around earlier, and I wrote it with 2 units of them because I thought 6 Alaris and a Terminator Captain would make a wicked list.
Gotcha. Okay.
Makes
So you
sense.
can't do that. You can only add a Knight Centura, which is the HQ choice, if you've got at least one other Anathema Psychana unit. And you cannot have Unstoppable Destroyer, which is one that lets you consolidate in all directions.
Okay.
Rules adaptations is only really for your Sisters of Silence.
Yep.
When a Psyker takes a Psychic test, the total is only affected by units of the Daughters of the Abyss that are visible.
Well,
So you
okay.
can't. So a bit like Psychers can only psychic things they can see. They're only affected by things that are in line of sight as well. So you can't just hide a unit of Sisters of Silence on the other side of a wall
Yeah.
to make.
Which
the
is
psychic
fair.
test
Anything
not
that
work.
doesn't require a line of sight does, which is fine. Yeah. All right.
Even though it doesn't make sense fluff wise, it does make sense from a game balance point of view.
Okay.
yeah.
Cool.
This is where I'm talking about jank, because these do not override. Unless it's specifically written here, the normal army selection rules apply, which means that you can include 1 fast attack slot only to Witch Seekers unit, fine, but Custodians have a rule that says you cannot include more Sisters of Silence units in a force organization chart slot
Hmm.
than you have Custodian units.
Right.
Mhm.
you can't take any fast attack custodian units, which means that you can't take Witch Seekers because you can't take anything to balance them.
I'd argue that bullet point on the left there of this page overrides that.
Yeah, I think so.
Well,
Just
maybe,
context.
but the rules are the rules.
I get you.
And it's very clearly states you cannot flat take any Anathema Psychana units unless you have the same number of custodian rules. And that's not in the unit list, that's in the army selection screen.
Okay.
So that would mean that you can't take any Anathema Psychana unless you've got something, which means you basically can't take any. The one exception to this, which is why I think you might be wrong on that overriding, is that you can. There are a specific rule that if you take a detachment that only has Sisters of Silence in it, then you don't have to obey that rule. What that means is you can't take a normal detachment with mostly, with like a couple of elite units of custodians and then a few Psychana troops.
Right. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But if you were to take their HQ choice, because they've got one, and their troops choice or their elite choice or whatever, you can take a unit consisting entirely of them.
Okay, cool.
So to me says you can only bring Witch Seekers if you only bring Sisters of Silence.
Yeah, my thought is that like a lot of these rules at the end of this edition now, if we can all agree that it's the end of the edition, which I think we can, a lot of the rules have been written without a full grasp of what was written before, or they've had to rush them.
Maybe
how it feels, and it just feels like some of these ideas are a bit half-baked. So
this
I think
is just a PDF, so they can tweak it and change it. And I do feel we might get a few FAQs because the other thing that doesn't quite work is, well, it does work, but it doesn't make any sense, is why can I take Custodian Wardens in a unit of 3 to 6 models? But I can't take any troops in units of 3 to 6 models. So my troops choice, which have exactly the same size units, can only be in a unit of 3.
Yeah.
But a random elite's choice can be in a unit of 6. It's not even an elite's choice that makes any sense being on a ship. It's the bodyguard unit.
Well, that's
all right,
just
cool. Let's have a look at what your list is.
So it doesn't make sense. So I do think that John's right in this, and I feel like a couple of these have been a bit rushed.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me. Let's move on.
So this is my beefy boys, the Sabotage Squad, and if anybody gets the music reference in there, then well done. They are a Shadow Keeper's detachment, which is because I normally run Emperor's Chosen as my army, and that's because I like the flexibility. But because you don't have any of the strats or anything, you don't get any flexibility. All they'd get is a mortal wound save, which we don't care about.
Yep.
And I like this one because it's -1 to attacks in melee.
Yeah.
Which makes them quite durable. So I think because this game feels to me like a lot of melee is going to be going on, they feel like a good shield host to pick.
Yeah, that's fair.
I've led it with the Shield Captain and Alaris Terminator armor with an axe because axes are cooler. And I've given him the Defiant to the last ability, which means that as he loses wounds, he gains attacks.
Fair enough.
And he's got 8 wounds and toughness 5 anyway.
Yeah, he's pretty survivable.
He's pretty tough. I've got a unit of 3 Sagittarium, which are the shooty custodians. They've got quite flexible guns, and I quite like that. It gives me a bit of shooting to back things up. And then I've got my maximum size unit, because it only let me take 3 of Alaris custodians, that I'm going to split off into units of 1 dude with an axe, just stalking through the corridors.
That's going to be super fun. I like that.
I just think it'd be super fun. Like, if Gaunt's come out of this door and he's just like, yes, I'll have you on my own, you know?
Do you know what the coolest thing about this list, Tony, is that if you were a new player and you're wanting to get into this is literally 7 models. You could paint it in an evening.
Yeah, no, it's wicked, isn't it? But each one of those models is a hero, and apart from the Sagittarium, which is a tiny unit of 3 guys, they're all going to be stalking through the Space Hulk on their own.
Yeah, that's true.
Just murdifying things, and I just think that's wicked. You know, they're going to die if they run into a big unit of Terminators or something. But I think that's just cool. It's a really cool visual image in the dark. So yeah, that was my beefy boys.
Very nice.
And here's my last one.
Okay.
So, Thousand Suns.
I was going to say T-Suns.
I thought it'd be a bit fun to do something different. Thousand Suns, all have to be the same great cult. Makes sense, same as all the others. You can include a fast attack, but only if it's a single chaos spawn, which is actually quite nice because they're quite cheap and quite
really
durable. You cannot include more than one unit of cultists, and the combined unit of cultists and Bray, which are like your Zangors and stuff, cannot exceed the number of rubric marines. Now, this is important because it's rubric marines, not rubrics and scarabs.
Yeah.
So I should have checked for Death Guard as well, but it's really saying you can't just bring scarabs and chaff.
Yeah.
Good.
But you couldn't do that anyway because you only allowed one squad as Caribs, right? Because they're elite choice. Or am I missing
but
something?
you couldn't fill all the rest of your points up with chaff.
I suppose you could have taken 10 Scarabs and combat squad them though, right? Because you could have taken... Yeah, okay, makes sense.
You can do that anyway. You can bring 10 Scarabs and a character, and that's your combat patrol. That's fine.
Yeah.
But you couldn't bring 5 Scarabs and then 3 units of chaff.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Which I think is a good thing because it means you can't gum up the board, basically. You cannot upgrade any models in your army to have any Legion command upgrades.
Okay.
Which actually is a little bit annoying, and it means that I've slightly cheated on the next slide, but we'll ignore that. Rules adaptations, and these got quite a few different ones here because they've got quite a lot of complex interactions. Rubrics and scarabs that do not contain an Aspirin sorcerer or scarab occult sorcerer lose the psychic keyword and lose the sorcerer's master ability. The problem with them is they normally work with 1 sorcerer and then 4 kind of dust-filled corpses.
Yeah.
But if you run a unit of 10, then that's 1 sorcerer and 9 dust-filled corpses, and you couldn't normally combat squad that.
Gotcha.
Because you've got your sorcerer leading his guys. You can't have them wandering about on their own.
But because
in this
rules
mode,
fall to you,
this overrides that, which means you can have units that are just rubric.
A unit of 5 dust-filled suits of armor.
Chaos Spawn has the following ability: Fated Mutation. Each time this unit is selected to fight, you do not need to roll which thing happens. You just pick the one you want. That gives them a little buff, but at the same time, they've got a few other drawbacks than that because of the game size, the size of the model, and things like that. They've also basically made all of your sorcerer's powers harder to get off in some areas.
Fair enough.
They've nerfed your psychic a bit, basically. And I think that's because in Arcs of Omen, in these boarding patrols, because the numbers of models are so limited, if you rock up with like a real psychic bomb unit, you could easily wipe out whole squads, and that wouldn't be any fun for anybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they've sort of nerfed that a little bit because there's just too much otherwise, which I think makes sense. I don't
absolutely. No argument.
So here's my list. It's the Cult of Time because it's got a cool healing spell, and because all my stuff's quite expensive, that's quite nice. I've got a unit of Rubric Marines, all with Warp Flamers.
Nice.
Ignore the Legion Command because you can't take it.
Yeah, you've got Araman, obviously.
I've got Araman because the whole idea just seemed really cool to have Araman stalking through some sort of like Space Hulk.
Does Araman not have the fly keyword?
You can give him the fly keyword for an extra 25 points.
Right. Okay.
He's about the only special character, I think, that you can upgrade.
I see.
So you can take his disc or you cannot take his disc.
Okay, makes sense. So he's left the disc at home today for boarding.
So he's left the disc at home, he's walking. But I just thought it was a very cool image of sort of like Araman with a load of like rubrics and that around him, searching for some kind of
mystic arcane bollocks. Yeah. Okay.
So I've got 5 rubrics all with Warp Flamers, because Flamers I think are wicked in this, and Warp Flamers are even better with their AP -2. And then I've got 5 Scarab Occults with a Soul Reaper cannon, because Assault Cannon is wicked.
Yeah,
gives it a bit of firepower that's got a bit of range to it. And as Araman was captain of the first company, it makes sense to have him with some Terminators.
Cool.
Like I say, this is slightly wrong because I've given a couple of command upgrades that you can't do, but then fuck it, we'll ditch those and they've got a missile launcher instead. Who cares?
Yeah, whatever. Awesome.
You see where I'm going with the list. So that was the kind of 3 lists that I put together, and I thought it'd be a bit of a laugh. And you can see that I've really tried to theme these lists because I do think this is something that it's an opportunity to use stuff you don't normally use, but it's also an opportunity to use some good storytelling.
Okay, I get that.
And I think that's it.
Does
Awesome.
the book come with any sort of? See, I've never played Crusade. I've never even read the rules. Is this gonna? Crusade goes off power level though, right? This goes off points. Like, does this sync with Crusade? Like, is it going to be easy to build a Crusade through a space hill?
Yeah, it does
what does it
actually
say?
sync with Crusade, and I'm trying to find it. There's a specific mention of Crusade in the rules here. I'm just trying to find it.
Oh, was there? Okay.
Oh, here we go. Crusade rules. The rules and missions presented in this book can be used to play battles with your Crusade force in the normal way. Your units still have all their battle honors, battle scars, etc. However, some of the agendas found within various publications are not appropriate because they reference rules, mechanics, etc. do not exist in these battles, such as deployment zones, blah, blah, blah. We recommend players have a discussion before the game and mutually agree which agendas and that they're going to play. Basically,
Okay.
Crusade's wicked. You want to play Crusade with this, maybe throw in a few of these boarding action games into your Crusade.
Yeah.
You can.
And if it doesn't work
that.
properly, work it out for yourselves. Because
Yeah.
Yes,
This is great. I like that
Sounds-
sort of thing. This is... if
The
you're playing
age-
Crusade, you're not playing super competitive anyway.
yeah,
I was going to say you can have the age-old roll off if you can't agree on the rules.
Exactly. So they do mention it. It is in there, and it does feel like something that'd be cool. If you're playing a bigger Crusade, to maybe have a boarding action in your Crusade.
or two. Yeah, that
Also,
sounds good.
I just think that'd be quite fun, wouldn't it? So let's roll on then. Pile of Glory.
Ooh.
Mark, you've been busy.
Not really. I've done a few little things.
It's only a week since we last did this, so
Yeah, well, that's all I've done is a bit of spray painting, really, more than anything else. I've dusted off some old fortifications, and I've resprayed them, touched them up, given them fresh lick of paint, ready for using either as terrain or as actual buildings to protect my army from being alpha struck off the board from their strategic reserving Iron Hands firepower of cheese. Until Games Workshop figure out to ban those from the game, because currently they've yet to do so, despite the fact the rules come from Chapter Proof 2019, which is touch dated now. I've made a little bit more progress on the 2 Assault Marines that I was doing last week, in that they've got red paint on now, so they'll keep going where they are. And the little guy in the bottom left is a happy little chappie called Sheev from Star Wars Imperial Assault, who I picked up.
I thought that he was the Emperor.
He is the Emperor. Sheev
Why is he called
Palpatine.
Chief?
That's his name.
That's his name.
Is it?
Yeah.
Emperor
I thought it was
Palpatine's
Palpatine.
first name is Sheev. SHEEV.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Now we know.
There you go.
Now you know. Quite
Yes.
easy model to paint, I guess. Just a black cloak, right?
He was coat
hard
of
to make
black
it look good, though.
coat
Yeah.
and a zenith spray of grey on top, and I'll ink him and pick some details out, and it'll be fine. But he was on sale on Amazon dirt cheap, so I've got a wish list of all the Imperial Assault models that I'm missing, and I pick them up when they're on sale.
I love
Fair enough.
Imperial Assault. We're gonna have to play Imperial Assault when you guys visit.
We'll add it to the
Such a
list.
good game. Such
I'll
a
probably be
But
quite
the-
lost.
The fucking huge list.
good-
It's fine. You'll get it.
It's super simple.
So it's
Just-
it's a campaign game, or at least the way I prefer to play is campaign. You can do a skirmish mode as well, where you have like figures with their stats and points and just maps and stuff. But you have a campaign game with like rebel heroes, and it's all scripted out with terrain that you mix and match. And you have a DM running the Imperial players, and you have a different player playing a rebel hero, and they've got to go through the missions from start to finish. And whether they win or lose influences what the next mission you play is. And you're going to go through fighting an ATST, killing some Jawas, and eventually, if you're lucky, you might get Vader chasing after you in the final mission. That sort of thing.
It's awesome.
Fair
And
enough.
they level up with gear as it goes along. They level up with special powers. It's really cool.
I've
Yeah,
got
the-
Disney Plus now.
Oh yeah. Have you watched anything on it yet?
I watched the first episode of Loki.
Well, that's
Which I
good.
quite liked,
Loki was
if I'm
good.
honest.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
I've watched every episode of How I Met Your Mother
Okay.
because I like that series. That was quite fun.
I do like Barney.
Andor
do.
has gotten the best critical reviews of any Star Wars show for fucking ages. because it's Star Wars that treats you like an adult rather than a kid anymore these days.
I do genuinely want to watch it. I've been a bit busy, so I haven't had time to like sit down and watch proper stuff. So it's just like crap like sitting on the background.
I did watch fucking brutal.
I did watch the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special.
Yeah,
so bad.
And the only Star Wars thing that I've watched is there is a short, which is a Studio Ghibli. Short with the
of baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda.
And some little dust mite things being animated across the screen.
And the dust bunnies, which was just very pretty and quite fun and only 3 minutes long.
Indeed.
And I'm a huge Studio Ghibli fan.
Cool.
I was going to say the making of some of the Star Wars stuff with what's the guy's name that did Iron Man?
Jon Favreau.
Yeah, that's really good as well. Actually, seeing him dive into how he produces and makes Star Wars is pretty cool.
I'm going to try and just sit down and watch Star Wars, if that makes sense.
You're going to have a lot of time for sitting down in front
we
of
can give you some advice on what to watch in what order and what's good and what's shit, if you want.
There's a filter on there which just says Star Wars in chronological order.
Oh, wow, cool. Well, there you go.
So I was just going to click on that and press play, and then...
Okay, some of it's going to suck.
Yeah, I know. There's also the same sort of thing for Marvel as well, because I'd quite like to watch the old Marvel films.
Yeah. Most of Marvel is good. There's the occasional shit film, but again,
I like the old Marvel. It just sort of went to tits around Captain Marvel.
Oh God, no! I don't want to get into this discussion now. We'll be here for another hour.
All right, Marvel.
Okay, let's roll on then.
Marvel episode in the future. You heard it here first.
Big on my Marvel stuff, really big.
I used to be massive on it, and I just completely fell out of love with it. Okay, John, what have you been doing?
Lord,
suspiciously like a Black Templar.
That's Lord Helguinius. He's left his chapter that was the Black Templars. Funny story. I was making this guy last night, or I was making the servitors for
the blade polishing guy.
Yeah. And Valrak came into my stream for like 10 minutes.
Oh wow! What did he say?
So after we slag him off so much,
I try not to slag him off.
I know you quite like him because you like all that leaks and.
I do like all the leaks and rumors. Yeah, I said to him that
it's very good for viewer traffic, isn't it?
It is great for viewer traffic. People love all the leaks. I mean, I watch it. It's compulsive viewing. You want to know what's coming next. So he came in. I asked him to come back and tell me when we know about Primaris Dante. Yeah. And I asked him what he thought of my Helbrecht because, I mean, after all, he's a son of Dorn, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to run this guy next Wednesday night, and this will be my proxy for Guilliman. So I'm going to spray him on Saturday. I'm going to try and put like 3 colours on him on Saturday night, and he's on the same size base. He has a sword, same as Guilliman, so he is my proxy for Guilliman, and I'll probably proxy him to the tournament as well because he's tall. Some people might be upset that he's not that tall compared to Guilliman, but I think because I've stuck that Blood Angels banner thing on the top of him, you know, he's like he's head and shoulders above. He's almost as tall as a Sanguinius Ancient with the whole banner thing.
Valrak, if you're watching, we only rag on you because we're jealous of your success and the fact you make a living off doing all this shit. So
yeah, that's the dream, isn't it? I mean, I was actually a bit nervous when he came in. I was like, holy shit, because he's kind of the man. He is the 40k man on YouTube.
He's not quite Henry Cavill, but yeah, all right.
No, maybe you'll get in the movie. Who knows? Henry might need some extras.
You never know. I'll be an extra in Henry's movie.
I do like this guy's helmet, though. I really like.
I was thinking that you've done a good job on picking the helmet there. I'll agree with that.
I think he'll look a lot better when he's sprayed because it'll the spray will hide some of the imperfections with I've done with the shoulder pads and stuff. And
he's obviously Helbrecht, but equally so you've done a decent enough job making him, giving him Blood Angel iconography and a bit more character. So yeah, all right.
Yeah, I also did the little servitor that has the banner, and everyone was making fun of me. They're like, that servitor will never be able to hold the Sanguinius Ancient banner with that shitty glue you use, John. And I was like, just you wait, ye of little faith. So I got it. So yeah, I've had fun building them. I might run them to the GT I go to next. It depends Like if I look at the GT and it's like Andrew and his friggin' broken iron hands,
When's
I
that?
might just run. 4th of March.
Okay, right.
So we'll see. I'll be ready. I'll be ready with I was actually painting. I didn't put it on the thing, but I was painting an impulsor last night. So
do you know what? Even I'm thinking about buying an impulsor because I don't own one because
no,
they've been shit since they come out. And
Yeah.
I've never bought one. I'm not even that fond of the model.
I've not really.
It's
I've not.
growing on me.
I've not bought one largely because it's out of process of the stupid Primaris Firstborn non-boarding each other's vehicles rule that
Yeah.
still annoys me to this day.
I want to use one to convert a hover rhino.
Okay.
So the Emperor had a load of hover rhinos hanging about the Imperial Palace. Now, most of them were lost in the war in the Webway,
All right.
but they were a thing. And I just think it'd be wicked cool to take an impulsor and all the like repulsor shit on it and stick it on a rhino chassis. Get rid of the tracks.
Sounds fair.
it would be actually, yeah. Hover
Yeah,
rhinos.
in game it would make no difference. Hell, I'd run it as an impulsor or I could run it as a rhino.
Yeah.
But I just think it looked wicked cool. And I might do it. This might be blasphemy though. I might do it and spray it gold and use it for the Sisters of Silence.
Ooh.
Have
No,
you
that's fine. I wouldn't have an issue with that.
heard the rumor that they're going to get rid of the Primaris keyword?
I've heard.
I've heard that rumor as well. Yeah.
I think it'd be a good thing if they
I
did.
think it'd be a good thing, but I worry
It'd be a
it's
wonderful
thinking.
thing. I think it'd be too much of a good thing. Therefore, I think it is too good to be true.
I think it's wishful thinking.
Well, I guess we'll see.
Yeah,
I hope I'm wrong.
I'd love to
I'll
see
be
this
really pleased.
how it progresses, John. Keep us informed. Looking good.
Because I love Land Raiders.
Yeah, me
I
too.
really love Land Raiders, and being able to put more stuff in them and that is just cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we'll roll on then. I haven't got a lot to say. This is all I finished in the last week because we had an extra week in there.
Yeah.
I have finished my 2 Caladius Grav tanks. There you go.
Very nice.
I've done 1 Annihilator.
Little bit of
one
freehand
normal one.
gold
No, it's a transfer.
stuff. Fine. All right.
Too lazy for that. No, it's a transfer.
They
No,
look good,
just
though.
nice and gold. Bit of panel lining, bit of oils on them just to bring a bit of detail to them, and then some nice shiny red bits.
Excellent. You happy with them?
Nice. Yeah, relatively. They're not the best painted models I've ever done by any stretch of the imagination. But one of the reasons that I like my custodians is they are really quick to paint and make look quite good.
Mhm.
So if I just want to bosh some units out that I want to play with, they're perfect for it. I've got
Makes
a pretty good
perfect sense.
gold recipe where I build it up in layers to get a bit of depth and a bit of interest. I've got a nice way of getting a kind of candy red effect on the vehicles and things that don't take too long. And I just bosh a load of oils over the silvers to make them look a little bit more interesting and call it a day.
Yeah.
So they're just quick and easy to paint. And that's sometimes all you want when you're sort of like really working hard for something for ages. That's cool when you like the finish. But sometimes it's nice just to go, right, I started the day with nothing and then now I've got these 2 painted bottles.
Gives you a feel of some form of productivity as well.
So I just like to try and mix in a kind of speed paint random thing every now and again. And that's what these were. They didn't take me long at all.
More power
Just
to
looks
you.
fresh. Nice.
So yeah, that's all I did.
What's that in the background on the back right behind the tank?
Suppressor, is it not?
Are they suppressors? They
The
look like they
models.
might be. Yeah.
Yeah, they are actually.
Oh,
And do you know why they are there? Yeah, they are.
I have no idea why they're there.
Because they come free in that Imperium magazine, and I realised that I've never actually bothered to build or paint a unit for suppressors.
Fair
Because I
enough.
had a unit of suppressors that come free with the magazine. I thought, fuck it, I want to build them.
All right,
But ironically, they don't come with the flying stands.
Oh,
Oh,
great.
that
So
sucks.
if you were to buy the copy of the magazine that had the because you've got to buy like 4 copies,
Hmm.
because they split the whole of the Vanguard Space Marines across a few issues.
Yes, yeah.
Which is cool. That's also where I got that lieutenant from. You
I
don't
tried
get the-
really hard to get those 3 issues, but they sold out
Yeah.
so quickly.
You don't get the flying stands, and because I'm a subscriber, you get an email saying, "Oh, sorry, we haven't put the flying stands in." So the flying stands come with another issue 10 issues later,
Oh, fuck that noise.
and some random Necrons. So if you
If
want
you
the
want,
flying stands for them, I've got it. I've got the issue because I got a subscription.
Oh,
but-
okay. I was going to offer you a link to the little resin smoke flight stands I've got that are
Oh, I know
a lot
the ones,
more
yeah.
steady and stable than.
What I've bought actually, and I'll show you very quickly if I can find them, is Green Stuff World have made some little ball bearings. So you get like a ball bearing and then a magnet with a cup in it.
Okay. Yeah.
So that you stick the magnet cup to one end, and you stick the ball bearing to the other end, and it can rotate and move around on it.
Yeah.
Because
And
they're
if there's going to be
fairly
pressure to snap
chunky-
it off, it'll break off at the magnet.
yes, because they're fairly chunky magnets. They're pretty well held on there. They're not going to roll around.
All right. Okay.
And I've bought a set of those for not for these. I bought them actually to put custodian jet bikes on
Fair enough.
and land speeders because I'm fed up with the amount of times I've snapped flying stands off land speeders.
Okay.
And I don't like, I know you can push them in, but then every time you try and move it, the fucking stand's falling off and this sort of stuff, And you know what I'm talking about. You've definitely done it in the middle of a game. You move your land speeder and the stand falls out of it. And you're watching them trying to get it back in. And now it's all wobbly and
Yeah.
it's just annoying.
No.
It's just annoying.
Never happened
So-
to me. I'm too good for that.
Normally I magnet the stand and I put one of these bloody great big magnets on it.
Yeah.
So I put one on the stand and one on the model.
That's usually how I do it, yeah.
Fair
But
enough.
occasionally the join between, because the plastic for those clear stands is not, it doesn't bond well with the metal.
No.
So I've snapped it off there a few times. I've built it up with green stuff and all sorts of things, but it snaps off. So I thought I'd try this different method of doing it.
Fair enough.
You see that big thing of magnets that you've got there? Did I tell you the story about when I dropped one of the 1x1mm magnets in my old house?
Oh no.
Did I tell you this?
And
So
No.
was your kid crawling around in the area or something?
well, the kid doesn't really come into the room, but I dropped this 1mm magnet on the floor, like 1x1, the smallest type you can find.
Yeah.
And I normally have them all laid out, and I usually, like now, but I think before then I wasn't like sticking them to something. So now if I'm using magnets, I'm always like sticking them to the hobby knife, so they never fall on the floor.
Absolutely.
Spent like an hour looking on the floor, couldn't find it. I was like, you're fucking joking me. So okay, took the Hoover in, hoovered the entire room, right?
Yeah.
Like still can't find it. Empty through the Hoover bag. Now the magnet's not in there. So I was just like, right, Charlotte, do not let the kid in that room. He doesn't go in that room much anyway, but just don't let him in there for like a while because we're gonna have to find this magnet. And like 2 days later or something, the door's been shut the whole time, right? So the kid's not in there. I take my glasses off. As I take my glasses off, I feel something on my finger. What's happened is I've taken my glasses off in the middle to like wipe my eyes. The magnet snapped and jumped and hit the glasses lens. And I've been walking around with this 1x1mm magnet attached to my metal glasses lens for like 2 days. And I was like, well, at least I found it. But oh my God, I wasted like 2 hours of my life. So
I have to admit, and
brilliant.
maybe I've got to get better at it, my magnet safety is not the best. And
Yeah.
I just literally have all of my magnets hanging off of this shelf rack.
I see them there. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So maybe you'll need to be better with
and
your
I just
magnet
sort of
safety.
take the size off that I need
Yeah.
and put the spares back up there.
But yeah, it was such a funny thing. So now if I'm ever using magnets, whenever they're not being used, they're stuck to something in the room, so I know exactly where they are
If
at
any
all
of
times.
you who are watching don't understand why this is such a problem, if a pair of magnets get somehow into your digestive system, they can attract within your body and cause major damage and issues inside your body.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
pets, kids, anybody who might unknowingly or uncaringly swallow a magnet are in
Apparently, it's
real
quite common
serious
for
danger.
people to put them in their mouth, like, and play with them, or like stick them on each side of you. Don't do that with these fucking giant ones because that
Yeah.
would really hurt. But people like stick them on their cheeks and stuff like that, and then accidentally swallow one.
Yeah,
If you
that's crazy.
swallow one, it's probably not the biggest problem in the world because there's nothing for it to
Probably.
stick on,
yeah.
and eventually you should shit it out. But if you swallow two, or like, I don't know, maybe if you've got one in your belly and you like get this other big one around here and like moving it around,
You're in life-threatening danger. I shit
Yeah.
you not. It's
Yeah.
a
do
real
not fuck
problem.
about with neodymium
So-
magnets.
Yeah.
So yeah, dangerous magnets. But yeah, that was a fun afternoon, I'll tell you. So
Okay, you ain't doing that again, Harry, are you?
no, never again.
All it takes is one moment of life-threatening terror to give you the
Yeah.
pain of learning from your mistake.
So, yeah, you guys got any games planned in the next couple of weeks? Or have you? So you're playing boarding actions, Tony. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I'm trying to play a bit anyway.
What have I got? I've got a game of Blood Bowl lined up for next Wednesday, just against the mate at the local club. And then a couple of weeks after that, I'm going to try and give boarding actions a go.
Yeah, so I'm going to probably get boarding actions the next couple of months. I got to train for this GT anyway, so I'm excited to try Reboote with the Blood Angels. I've made a list with 2 Ball Predators, Tony. It's coming out on the Blood Angels. By now, it'll be out on the Blood Angels channel when you guys are watching this.
Oh,
but
okay, so you're
in
playing
real
next
time,
Wednesday.
it's
Yeah.
coming out tomorrow. My video with Reboote and 2 Ball Predators, and then I've gone like full diversification. So it's like 1 squad of Terminators, 1 squad of Death Company, 1 squad of Sangre Guard, 1 squad of Aggressors, 1 squad of that was my watch.
Like
trying
your
to speak to
Alexa,
me.
was it? Okay.
Yeah. So it's like 6 different elites, like Centurions, Aggressors, Blade Guards, Terminators,
curiosity.
Sangre Guard,
Why?
Death Company.
Because it's wicked.
No, I want to hear John's reason.
Because all of my durable elites will get 7-inch charge because the +1 from Gilliman will stack with the +1 from the Red Thirst.
So why such a variety of units?
Well, like Blade Guard because they'll be in an Impulsor, Terminators and because they'll be deep striking, Centurions because they'll be in reserve for free, and then Death Company and Sangard because they're fast. So it's kind of like trying to keep some of the fast, but also just add like as much deep strike as possible because the
Because you'll
fact
be
that
deep striking almost everything with a +2. Yeah.
yeah, but that's
I
what the meta
absolutely
is.
love it.
That's what the
I
meta
love it.
is.
Yeah.
Anytime I see loads of people just bringing one of each unit and just lots of different units, then I love it. It's interesting. It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It's going to be fun. I don't know if it's...
You've played a lot of the same kind of army a lot over the last year or so. So it'll be interesting to see this.
It's not going to be... I don't know if it's going to be competitive, but...
That's exactly why I'm interested to see it.
Yeah, I mean, if Reboote
This sounds
gets
like
in
you
combat...
playing for fun rather than playing to get salty when you lose to Iron Hands. And you playing for fun, I'm all here for.
Yeah. If I see a list turn up with 3 units of Sanguinary Guard, 3 units of Death Company, a Sanguinary Ancient, and some sort of captain or something, then I'm immediately bored and going to go and watch something else.
Do you know, I was feeling that pain for 6 months on the Army List show where everybody was submitting the exact same lists within like a 10 or 15 point percentage. And I was just like, oh great, it's another list of 3 Death Company and 3 Sangre Guard. Well, guess what? I'm not playing that because I think it's fucking boring. So this...
And I don't think it's even that good.
It was.
It won a few events. It won a few events. It won a few big
not.
events. With Armor of Contempt, it was
it's
decent.
not that good. It's good if you get the right matchups, but it's fucking useless if you get the wrong matchups.
Okay, well, yeah.
And all you're doing is you're rocking up to a tournament and you go, right, I'm going to roll the dice and hope that I get the matchups.
No list is great against everything, though. Let's be real.
It's that whole idea of I'm going to be great against these things, but awful against those things. And I'm going to roll the dice and hope I just don't run into those things.
True.
And I just don't like that style of play at all. Because if you spend, I'm going to play all comers, then you're deciding before you've even started the game, am I going to win or am I going to lose? Because you're going to turn up and you're like, oh shit, I'm against a Shadow Keeper's army and I can't do fuck all to them. Or, oh, I'm against this kind of other normal balanced army and I'm going to muller them. And that's just so
your poison.
boring.
Where do you want to place the risk? It's always the same.
It's just so boring because you look at the tournament results, like, oh, it won a tournament. Yeah, it did win a tournament, but you look at the bottom end and look, it also lost the tournament. But nobody pays attention to the bottom 10 results, who were the people that only played Death Guard with their Sanguinary Guard army and just got absolutely rinsed. But people are like, oh, yeah, but it won. Yeah, it did. Because that one, hang on, who did it fight? Oh, nobody with -1 damage and a super lightweight army that was fucking wicked against.
Oh, fuck.
It would win there, wouldn't it?
You are a breath of fresh air, Tony, honestly.
Pisses me off. Oh, but it won a tournament, that means it's good. No, it won a tournament, which means it luckily played things it was good against.
You put a dime in the jukebox, you got to hear the whole song.
It's fucking ridiculous. Stop telling me things are good because somebody won with it.
Okay. All right. Well,
If
I were-
everybody who run that one, then yeah, it needs still a list. You remember the Tyranid list? It was like 60% win rate.
John,
Yeah.
That
you
was
mute him.
good
Yeah,
because
that was good.
everybody won who ran it.
Yeah, that was really good. All right, I'll let you know if Rebooty's good.
We'll be watching. Don't worry, or
Yeah.
at least I'll
I'm
be
going to
watching.
build one anyway. I'm
And
getting
2
one with
Ball
that magazine
Predators.
and then
Why not? 2 Ball Predators and Rebooty.
Fuck
No
yeah.
one-
two Bell
no one
Predators,
else is running that.
220 points of fun.
Both Daka build or Daka and Flamer or Flamer and Flamer.
Well, both DACA because I'll get to reroll ones because the Rebooty
Yeah,
doesn't have
yeah.
core nonsense. So as long as they're within
Absolutely.
12 inches of Rebooty, yeah, I might even reserve the Ball Predators because
Yeah.
they'll come in from the side of the board hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s. So
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see.
I prefer the Daka build, not because I think it's better, but because it's the original Bar Predator.
Yeah, it is the original one, yeah.
And
Yeah.
the Flamer one come much later.
And then they still need to make those Flamers Assault and Ball Predators stupid.
Yeah,
They're
Yeah.
heavy
yeah.
weapons.
Or just give it a rule that vehicles can advance and fire assault
Or
weapons.
this vehicle. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Who
Oh,
cares?
so
we
it can
all know it.
advance and fire all weapons.
We've been there for the last 3 years now, so that's fine.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
All right, have we got another slide? Because we're on 28 or 29.
We don't.
Oh, we've
We
got
probably should have done all
beautiful
the chatting
picture.
over this bollocks.
Ooh.
Back nipples.
Yeah, I was going to say the back nibbles. So if anyone's got any questions for us on boarding actions,
Yeah.
then ask them down in the
Drop them in the
comments,
comments.
and we'll make sure that we get you an answer.
Yeah.
We can now have super chats on the channel.
Hmm.
So if you feel like you got some value out of this, we like
Or-
Starbucks.
Or super thanks,
Oh,
apparently.
that's
they're
what they call
branded.
it. Super thanks,
Yeah.
right? And
And it's
so,
super chats when it's in the chat on a live
Yeah.
video, and super thanks when it's not.
okay,
There we
so
go.
if you enjoyed this and you feel enough to buy us each a cup of Starbucks, then you'll have to donate like
Or one
25
of us a
bucks.
couple of Starbucks.
Because Starbucks is ridiculous. But yeah, if
Yeah,
you
or,
if you
or
if,
McDonald's coffee. Let's not set the bar too
Yeah.
high.
if you would like to buy us all a McDonald's coffee, then you can super thanks.
We
£3.
are working on getting YouTube memberships live. We're sorting
Yeah.
out the icons.
And we do have
rewards
we do have
do
the
for this,
worst
so-
Patreon ever, which has literally no benefits. Although apart from occasionally we'll chat to you and ask you for opinions. on
It keeps
things
us
or
in
what you want us
shit.
to do.
We'll offer to bring you on a
Yeah.
game of Darktide.
Yeah,
it does
and,
keep us
and you
going.
get to tell us what you
It
want us
is
to make.
massively helpful. Supporting us
Yeah.
is very, very much appreciated.
A big chunk of our episode themes and that are from our Patreons who go, "Can you make an episode on this?" And you're like,
yeah,
"Yeah,
it's
sure."
probably
why not?"
about 50% of them, really, at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And
only when something
also-
interesting gets released that
I was going to
wanna
say
make a video on.
the Patreons have let us buy all the codexes and do all the start building
we've-
videos as well.
Not
Yeah.
all of them, because we haven't bought all of them, but all the ones that we've covered.
a lot of them wouldn't have this if it wasn't for the Patreons.
Yeah.
So
So thank you very much for your support. It is very much appreciated, and we hope you continue to get some value, some information, or the odd laugh or two out of the bollocks that we talk.
Yeah, out of just the random ranty shit that we jabber on for about 2 hours about.
yeah. Okay. Then that's
Sweet.
us for this week.
Yeah.
Peace out, dudes.
Please hit the like button, or please consider subscribing if you've
If you
not.
haven't already. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But do it
otherwise,
responsibly.
have a good one. Keep the hobby fun.
Peace.
Toodles.